Welcome to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
And this pitch is hit well in the air, deep left center field, and this game is going to be tied. It wasn't a leadoff home run, but into the bullpen for Matt Wallner, his 13th home run of the year, and it's 1-1.
2-2. Driven deep to right field. Way back. How about Juan Soto? Halfway up the bleachers. He goes down in pain and inflicts pain on that baseball.
The 3-2 runners go. Swinging a fly ball. Right field. That one's way back and right. Gone. Trey Sweeney with his 4th of the year. It's a 3-run shot.
Here's his pitch. And he swings and drives one to left. High and deep. And this ball is long gone. A walk-off home run. Tyler O'Neill. And the Red Sox have won it. Their first walk-off home run of the year. The final 5-3 Red Sox.
Have a lot of respect for that team and Coach Farley. They have a tradition of playing good defense. They have a style of football they want to play, both on offense and defense, and playing complementary football. I think with them, up front, they're a tough group, right? Getting Midwest guys back in, have some seasoned veterans, some transfers that have played at bigger places and have played at a high level of football, so you got real guys back there. And they're athletic and tough. That is a tough football team.
Good morning. Welcome into Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill on the Pillar Exterior stage. And we're providing you with a public service announcement that if you are in the car with your kids, do not look up why Shannon Sharpe is trending.
Wow, that's not how I thought. You just never know.
Just trust me on this. He's not dead. He's not dead or anything. Just if you got kids around, don't look it up.
I'm going to say this, leave this right here and move on. I am. Because I know I'm not the only one thinking it. We made a lot of assumptions about what we heard.
Yeah, I only listened to a couple seconds of it. So I was like, oh, I know what's going on here.
I was like, wait a minute.
Yep. It's audio only. So we don't
I think we just assume.
Yeah. There's a
but I don't know. I mean, and listen, people are free to do what they want. Just make sure that the IG live is off.
Yeah, make sure that
everybody has their own tastes and choices. But I think we made some assumptions. I'm not so sure.
I think we assumed that Shannon Sharpe knew.
Might have been a smoker though. A little raspy. I don't know
that Shannon knew how to use IG Live. He apparently does not.
Man, I'm glad he walked back the whole hack thing.
Yeah, I appreciate the being upfront about it, being like, yeah, well,
Just going to have to own that one.
Wow. Good morning, DB. How you doing?
I was good.
You were?
Yeah. Shane, did either one of you notice how I circled the parking lot?
No,
I came in my normal way, and then I went all the way down to the end.
No.
I still feel bad for her having to carry that sandwich.
This thing was like a newborn child.
Yeah, it's a baby leg.
Like a snaky leg?
Yay. No. Go all the way around because I want
an early walker this morning.
Yeah, he's getting
after it.
Because I wanted to hear Pat and Michelle argue with
Canty.
I'm fed up.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, this quarterback discussion between Burrow and Hurts was fascinating.
Yeah?
Yeah, Pat tried last year to say he was selling his Joe Burrow stock, and they almost laughed him off the show.
Yeah.
And he wants his pound of flesh because he made the comp between Burrow and Hurts, and he couldn't understand why Canty didn't like Hurts but likes Burrow, and he said they're basically the same person. Canty came back with it's an apples to wrenches comparison. Which I had never heard of. I won't use that.
That's a new one.
Yeah, I probably won't use that. That's too Canty-ish. But it was a fascinating discussion, so I had to buy myself some time.
Yeah, I just thought you maybe were having an existential crisis or something.
No, just circled away. I don't even know what existential means, to be honest.
It's like you
out of body, out of mind.
Nah,
Exo, I assume means outer.
Exis.
Exis?
Yeah, like existence.
Like what the Earth spins on?
No, that's Axis. So existential crisis is like, you're like, what am I doing here? What's my purpose in life? That kind of thing.
No, I've been through that.
Well, you know, never know. It's a Thursday morning. You're just taking a lap around the parking lot.
No, if it was quite a crisis. It's all relative. No, but it's good.
No,
we got football tonight.
We got a lot of football tonight.
Do we have college? We have college. I haven't really looked at the college slate. I'm just trying to get past team dinner.
Yeah, we got a good. Oh, the good one's tomorrow night. Is Arizona Kansas State's tomorrow night?
You're calling that a good one?
I mean, it's top 20 matchup.
Yeah, with Tafita and.
I mean, I think it's an interesting one. At the very least, you've got, as opposed to a lot of the weeknight games that are kind of.
No, I'm with you.
You know, that's a pretty solid one.
Thought you were fast forwarding the next Friday night. Is that a good one?
I mean, it could be. That could be a top 25 matchup too. If Illinois wins this week, they might be. They're like 26 in the AP.
Yeah, I'm not buying it.
You're not buying Illinois?
Nope.
Nah. I'm buying Nebraska more.
Yeah.
I think Illinois is better than we thought they were.
What a soft batch of cookies. Like,
I think Illinois is better.
That wasn't the like.
No, I think Illinois is better than we thought they were.
Would you hit default?
Control, delete?
I'll take Nebraska more. That's not even a discussion. I'm just talking about Illinois. Are you afraid to take a stand?
No, I think Illinois is a lot better than we thought they were.
Oh, I do not yet.
I don't think they're as good as Nebraska, but I think they're better than we thought they were.
Yeah, that game was not good on either side.
The Illinois game?
Yeah, we'll see.
I mean, you know, we'll see. I think it could be an interesting matchup.
Ooh, going out on a limb.
I like limbs.
Very vague.
I don't really climb trees, much. Not a big,
Oh, do tell.
I did when I was a kid. We had a tree in my backyard that had like one of those like low splits, so you can like get in there real easy.
Mm-hmm. Do I strike you as a tree climber?
Nah, you seem ground bound.
Yeah, good answer.
Ground bound, eastbound and down.
Never seen it. I heard it was good.
It's all right.
I used to use a lot of the GIFs. Never had any idea what they meant.
I wasn't as big a fan as some people. I thought it was only okay.
Yeah,
it had its moments.
I thought he had cool hair.
I mean, he was rocking the Mahomes early.
Yeah,
the curly little mullet
before Mahomes.
Before Dylan Raiola?
I've never seen Eastbound and Down.
No, it's okay. Speaking of Patrick Mahomes, talked about our boy a little bit yesterday.
Yeah.
I like that.
Do you?
I kind of, yeah.
I think we've well established that they have a pretty decent relationship.
Yeah, that's the first time that Mahomes has really talked about it, though.
Except he, with, a couple of tweets where he'd say, that's
like
my
Lil Cuzzo.
That's my Lil Cuzzo.
Yeah. But it's like becoming a thing nationally.
Yeah.
Which is
good to see that they're onto it.
Yeah, I just like it's good to see Nebraska talked about positively
nationally?
On a national stage. Yeah.
Well, when you start to stack wins, people would like to talk about you.
I sure hope so. I like it when they talk about Nebraska for good reasons.
Yeah.
And not for, oh no, not again.
Like laid an egg type again?
Yeah, or blew another lead late or whatever, right? You got some of that a couple years ago, especially.
Oh.
A little bit.
Right.
You doing all right?
Yes. I'm listening.
You seem a little distracted by Josh Allen.
No, I was hoping to see a Kyler Murray touchdown, but that's not going to happen because
you love Kyler Murray. That's your guy.
Well, here's the funny thing.
Yeah.
I had seen this game.
Yeah.
So it's not like when I'm watching the highlights, I'm going to see something that didn't happen in the game. So on that replay, I was like, oh, like score. But I know he's not.
He didn't score.
Yeah, yes. Don't you ever do that?
Not as much
like
as
with Justin Fields passes. Oh man,
no,
I just catch that. Oh wait, that was airmailed.
Even if I haven't seen it, I just assume
I
that's
don't
not
need
being
to hear.
a
I
completion.
don't need to hear that from you.
I'll be like, oh, he might take off and run on this one, but he's probably not completing a pass.
Don't need to hear that from you. Why don't you guys fill out your injury report correctly? Huh?
They thought he was going to play.
I do love, God bless Shanny, trying to walk that back. I said he could be ready to go.
No, I need him to be ready. I didn't say he was going to start.
He wasn't ready yet.
Are you guys going?
No,
it's listen, Christian McCaffrey always is in the mindset he's got to play.
Right.
Always.
Shane, am I in the stream?
Yeah, because I set it up.
Doesn't mean I clicked to enter the studio.
Well, yeah, but we're on the stream together because we're on the same camera now.
Did I enter?
I have no idea.
And I never do.
I do feel like there's something a little, something doesn't smell quite right with the Christian McCaffrey thing, and not just the injury report part.
Oh, you think he may be a little more?
Yeah, I think there's something else. I think there's something more going on there than they're letting on.
Listen, I shut that dude down till week 4.
Yeah,
I mean, you
there's no
dodged
upside to
you
it.
dodged a bullet last year getting him for a full season.
Well, right, and he had a similar type injury in week 16, 17, something like that.
Ed Foley told a story once when this dude was in Carolina, how on a Monday and Tuesday he flew overseas to get looked at and get some treatment. Like, that's how serious he was. So I'll be back on Tuesday.
Yeah, he's doing like the Kobe deal.
Yeah.
Going over to Germany, see if they can get him some platelets or something.
I was like, wow, dedicated.
I appreciate that.
Can you imagine having that kind of scratch where you just hop on a plane and like, yeah, I'll be back on Tuesday.
Like, I have to go to Europe for a quick medical procedure.
Yeah, be right back.
And then I will be back
like you're running over to,
like I'll be back after lunch.
Fairway or some place.
It's like, hey, I just got to go to the doctor's appointment real quick. Oh, where's that? It's in Germany.
Be right back.
No big deal. I mean, from the East Coast, that's only like a 6-hour flight. I'm just glad he's got his like passport and papers on point like that. Like, good for you, Christian, being on top of stuff.
I'm sure those guys and gals that have a ton of money travel abroad probably need those on standby.
Yeah, that's fair.
Would you like to lick the lid off this honey cap?
Nope, you're being weird.
No, I haven't. I mean,
you're being weird, man.
I peeled it off by the backside.
I'm not gonna be licking.
You still had nerve enough to say I'm being weird. Really?
Not trying to lick rappers out here on the show today.
Oh, don't act like you've never done that.
No,
not on the stream.
No.
I wait till we're off air like a gentleman.
Sometimes it's good for you to just pretend like we're not on the stream. I do that from time to time.
I think we do that enough.
Yeah, I just think it's overrated sitting still.
Hey, you gotta do what you gotta do.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Well, ADHD, it's all right.
Appreciate the latitude.
Yeah, it doesn't bother me at all.
Sometimes you just don't feel like sitting.
Sometimes
I don't know what that was yesterday.
That was a whole other thing.
Well, some of it is my back.
What's wrong with your back? What'd you do?
I don't know. Not sure.
You tweak it a little bit?
You seem very hurt right now.
Kinda.
Or did you just like wake up on the wrong side of the bed? Like, what happened?
That's always
well,
according to some.
It's to flip a coin.
What's wrong with you?
Super happy.
I am. I don't care what she says. Making it up.
No, what'd you do to your back?
I don't know, man. I think so. I mean, full disclosure, I hopped in a drill last week.
Okay, so that was that.
Probably.
I mean, I'm going to go out on a limb.
Yeah. My players enjoy trying to run me over. I feel like it's intentional.
Oh, 100%.
Well, wow.
No, it's not a you thing. Anytime your coach hops in a drill,
yeah,
even if it's basketball. I used to, when I was coaching, I would take the pad and like hit the guys while they were going up for layups to try and make them finish through contact. When they had a chance to like square me up, they did.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's just a thing.
So we've had to I'm just trying to not take 800 milligrams. That's not healthy.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll go over to like
it's not great for your liver.
It's overrated. Cryotherapy or something. What? What?
Forgot your liver has other problems.
Yeah,
it's fine.
Hey, whatever. Baby steps.
You can go get like massage or something. Chiropractor.
If I could pick my masseuse.
Yeah.
I can't. I'm not a luck of the draw kind of guy.
Pull a name out of a hat.
I probably doesn't surprise you, right? It's just like, yeah, but no.
I'm shocked that you were particular about something.
Yeah,
I'm blown away.
Yeah. Or talking to a dude that faked a cramp once. What?
Wait, what?
It's a long story.
Well, we got 3 hours.
Nope. Not doing it.
Not today.
Not
today. That's maybe.
Are you surprised that and yes, they are your Miami Dolphins are favored tonight?
I mean,
are you claiming them now?
Why am I claiming them?
I don't know. You're a big Tua guy. I heard it all summer. Ravi here for
that was a different thing.
Ravi here for Tua Tagovailoa.
No, it was guy can't win a Super Bowl.
Wow. We gonna start that again?
I mean, No, you got me started early before the show with Jalen and Burrow.
Well, because I think clearly you're wrong.
I'm closer to saying that Joe Burrow can't win a Super Bowl than I am to saying Jalen Hurts can. That's how I feel about it.
Why are you doubling down on
triple down
idiocy?
Double, triple,
really? So
like a Whopper or a Big Mac?
So you
I don't think Jalen Hurts is that guy.
You're standing on business. Jalen Hurts cannot win a Super Bowl.
Not that guy.
Okay. All right. We were all in on Brad Johnson, though. Trent Dilfer.
You didn't even know me back then. I was like 14.
Clearly you were. Yeah, man. Some of those haircuts you were rocking too. I don't know if I probably would have been out. I was super shallow, so I would discriminate based on how you looked.
It was a different time.
I'm like, man, who is that dude's barber? I'm out.
Listen,
I had some bad stuff going on too. My mom has these old pictures. I'm like, God, that dude is ugly.
I was say you grew up in the 80s. I gotta imagine there's some bad stuff going on there.
Hey, watch it. So I saw a guy at Holy Ghost at a speaking engagement who brought me some pictures.
Yeah,
and they're old.
Like of you?
Yeah,
from high school. Or
no,
older?
they're in college.
Oh, okay,
like going out for the coin toss. There's a couple against Missouri, and somewhere I'm in the locker room. I don't know how he has those. He must have been like clearly a photog.
Yeah.
Because he has some good stuff.
He's got like some access.
Yeah, I've got him in the glove compartment if you want to see.
Yeah.
No, you're supposed to be like, dude, no, it's a little weird.
Nah, it's all right.
It's from the 90s. I don't like you that much.
Nah, I mean, I would.
The dude was like, yeah, no, I want to see him.
It'd be cool to see pictures.
He does have a cool one where I'm coming out with the captains.
Yeah.
And they always put me in the same spot.
Where?
If I don't want to hold hands with Menor and Tomich, what if I want to hold hands with like Tomich and Dish?
Well, I don't know. I can't help you there.
It's a wrong question.
I feel like you don't care who I hold hands with.
Not even a little bit.
I see how this morning's going to go. What happened to the whole friend thing? Like
we're great friends. That's why I wanted to see the pictures.
Hello, friend.
Like, there's only so much. You know, it's the same thing. Like,
we're not gonna make it. Let's get back to Tua, because Tua can win a Super Bowl.
Same thing, like with my wife.
I almost hope Tua wins the Super Bowl. Let's go. I'm cheering for Dolphins Eagles in the Super Bowl.
Man,
you'd be miserable.
That'd be our worst nightmare. I'd be like, oh no, one of them has to win. Don't worry, I'd find a way out of it.
Oh, I know.
Just like I found a way out of Jason Tatum being a Lulla star.
Somehow it all goes back to Jason Tatum.
Can't win in the Olympics. Come on, man. Can't even play.
To heck with that NBA championship, man. I'm on to the Olympics.
Jaylen Brown was the best player on that team.
Oh, Lord.
Jason Tatum was at best third in the finals. I mean, come on.
Oh, you were something else.
Shrinks when the stage gets big.
Yeah, Hurts.
It's like George Costanza when it's cold out.
Hurts to a Super Bowl.
I hope not.
God, just to watch you
That'd
squirm.
be terrible.
Just to watch you wiggle and squirm.
Those are probably my worst ones, too.
You don't think?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I've come out against some other people, but that would be a rough one. That'd be tough to look for your guy. I would need there to be like, and I'm not rooting for this, obviously, but I would need like catastrophic injuries to happen to everyone else involved. So I had some excuses to navigate.
Yeah.
But, you know, let's just hope it doesn't come to that. We're in week 1, a lot of time. It hasn't gotten cold yet, so Tua's still playing good.
Wow, it's gonna bang that drum.
Jaylen,
selfish.
You're gonna.
You know what I'm gonna do?
You're gonna force me to just outwardly cheer for Tua.
Yeah, I am. And Jalen. You know what I'm gonna do with Jalen though? I'll be like, oh man, he got Derrick Henry. He saved him. Saved his bacon.
That's fine.
Not Derrick Henry. Saquon Barkley. Sorry.
Wow.
I was thinking of Lamar, the other guy. I think he can win a Super Bowl.
I didn't hear that.
I think Lamar can. I don't feel great about it, but I don't feel great about Lamar.
So like, this makes perfectly good sense.
Yeah.
Since I know you don't like black quarterbacks to begin with. Jalen Hurts has played in a Super Bowl.
Yep.
But he can't win one.
Correct. Under his current contract.
Lamar Jackson can barely get out of the first round, but you believe he can win a Super Bowl.
Not real strongly.
I mean, that makes perfect sense.
Well, listen, past results aren't always a predictor of future success. You know, just ask Albert Pujols and the Angels.
Wow.
There's a lot of people that get big contracts and goes the wrong way. No, part of my deal with Jalen Hurts, and you know this, part of my deal with Jalen Hurts and with our guy Tua is that it's the contract as much as the player. I don't believe, and Sports Illustrated had a nice article about this. I've been talking about it for 6 months, but it's not a big deal. They just figured it out. That if you're paying a sub-elite quarterback money, I don't think you can win a Super Bowl. You know why? Because most teams that have done that have not won Super Bowls.
Wait, who's the sub-elite quarterback?
Jalen Hurts and Tua.
Sub-elite?
And Jordan Love. And Trevor Lawrence.
Wow. You've been reading Sports Illustrated articles again, haven't you?
And Dak, man, I've been talking about this for 3 months before Sports Illustrated thought of that article. I showed you that article. I was like, hey, does this sound familiar?
Stop paying quarterbacks.
Stop paying the mid-level ones or the not like
who's mid?
Mid-level is aggressive, but I don't have a good word for not the best, but better than average. So whatever you want to call those guys, your second, third tier quarterback, whatever. Those guys, when you pay them, historically do not win you Super Bowls. That's just how it's gone. Now, if there's a new economics of the league where you can start paying guys $60 million that are only okay and you can win Super Bowls, cool. Then I'll learn on the fly. But until that happens, I'm going to sit here and say, hey, if you're paying guys that are not the best guys in the league, 40, 50, $60 million, probably not winning a Super Bowl. The rest of your roster can't be good enough.
Dang. Now I feel like I almost have to cheer for Dak Prescott, too.
Go for it. $60 million man. Go have fun.
What did he get? 231 guaranteed?
Yeah. It's a big number.
I'd have my passport and
I think
my
paperwork.
I'd have my visa in order. Yeah. I'd fly to Germany just to get fixed up and come right back if I was getting 231 guaranteed.
What did Deshaun get guaranteed? Because he may not be allowed to leave the state pretty soon.
So I think he still has 160 on the books.
God. Well, it started at like 240.
240, yeah.
God. I think there's a way they can get out of it.
Yeah, so they have to hope his conduct is.
Because if he gets suspended for this one, they can void it.
Yeah, it's a new.
And it's after the time frame they set out in the contract.
We think they're like, please, sweet baby Jesus.
I mean, I'm not like a conspiracy theorist. It wouldn't surprise me if they called the lawyer and be like, hey, you got anybody else?
Wow.
Like, not even that I don't think the allegations are true. Like, obviously, I have no idea.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when there's 25 of them, I get a certain idea.
Just when you have 160 or 130 mil on the table, you're willing to.
Yeah, you should be like, hey, was it Tony Busby? Just be like, hey, was there anybody else that didn't come forward last time that like you think has a case? Because we could really use a way out here.
Jameis Winston, come on down in Cleveland.
Yeah, it's bad when Jameis Winston is the moral compass of your franchise.
Well, I mean, Jameis, I don't know. What happened to that defense?
Do you ever
it's not like Dak lit it up. I think what did he throw? He only threw for like 195 or something.
No, Dak was.
They ran the ball.
Yeah,
though.
Dak was fine. He was whatever.
No, it wasn't 231 mil.
It wasn't like 60 mil a year good, but whatever. I don't even apparently that 60 mil a year doesn't mean
going rate
anything anymore. It's just like, hey, that's the cost of a starter.
No, you're exactly right.
All right, cool.
Boy, that sad thing blew up yesterday, didn't it? Nice first segment. It's my friend Jimmy. Jimmy was at it again last night.
Was he?
Oh, yeah.
What did Jimmy have to say last night?
No, Jimmy and I were just going back and forth.
Yeah.
That was really, really good to see.
Yeah, Jimmy doubled down.
Really?
No, he kind of backed off. He said he was unfairly portrayed.
You unfairly portrayed someone?
I read.
Said the guy who I hate black quarterbacks 2 minutes ago? Well, you unfairly portrayed someone?
You did say that. Or it's just it just so happens you don't like Love, you don't like Hurts.
I said Lamar's fine.
I don't know why you're counting Tua. Maybe it's a brown skin thing, but all the guys you told me you didn't like.
I didn't count Tua. You're counting Tua.
Happened to be of a darker complexion.
I mean, that has nothing to do with it.
Just coincidence?
Coincidence. I hope Jordan Love's good. I just need to see it for more than 7 games.
But you love Joe Burrow. That's awesome.
I'm closer to being out on Joe Burrow than I am on being in on Jalen Hurts.
Of course.
Certainly not Jordan Love.
Wow.
We will be back. We will be back.
in the second quarter. It's a give to Pesic Hickson, looking for room over the left side. Foot race, and he wins it. He turns the corner and gets into the end zone for a touchdown. Just went wide in the second. The gun, Rosberg takes the snap. Pivot to Chase on the reverse, and he's clipped and dropped. We're all the way back at the 9. The gun, Rosberg. Aiden Dunn and the Panthers. Edwards starts right, comes back left, slips a tackle. He's got room to the 20. Down the sideline 30. Foot race to the 40. Midfield down the sideline 40 and forced out of bounds deep in Tommy territory. Denjouette caught up with him at the 34. He didn't need a lot of space. Aiden Dunn. Dunn just ducking ahead, and this is going to suspend on the spot. Close. And a flag comes in as he gets close to the 20. Snap back, Pesic Hickson hitting the back, lost the football, picks it up, spins away, gets to the 10-5, and gets into the end zone. Touchdown. Are you kidding?
We will be back. You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Welcome back to Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here at the Pillar Exterior stage. Forgot where we were for a second.
PE, baby.
Pillar Exterior. That's what we do.
Yes.
Should we do the lineup? I don't know.
Speaking of PEs, it would probably enhance our performance if we did.
No, it's PEDs.
We're not the drug part. Unless you want people hooked on us. Do you not get the analogy?
No.
Simba, I'm very disappointed in you.
Hey, 2 days later, James Earl Jones reference. Good job, Shane.
Well, I mean,
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
What do you always say? You always say Shane's on delay.
Yeah,
except for yesterday, he was on point.
Yeah, you know what I realized?
I still don't know how that happened.
So I walk into the old high school campus yesterday. I need to go back and see if this is true. But guys on my staff seem to think you guys are at your funniest when you're making fun of me. Is there a trend?
There might be. Could be.
But Shane, though?
Shane was definitely at his funniest yesterday when he went off on his little tangent there.
Oh, come on, Shane.
I think that's the funniest.
But how are you 2 days late with James Earl Jones, though?
The ability to destroy a planet is insignificant.
And here goes this one trick pony. Can only talk about Darth Vader.
I'm black and I'm hoping.
What was that again, Shane?
That was a pretty good one.
Simba, I'm very disappointed in you.
So we got some Mufasa.
This dude,
I don't know what that one was from.
I think he knows you don't like minorities.
I'm black and I'm hoping.
Like medium brown, maybe. I don't know.
Think, well, you don't play quarterback.
Nah, wasn't tall enough. I'm
We got so many degenerates already.
Like Kyler Murray out there.
We talk about Dolphins and Bills.
Yeah.
And immediately I get just get me 30 fantasy football points tonight and I'm good. And your boy, I'll be good if the game stays under 51.
Dude, he got it at 50. Oh, man, it's down to 48.5. He got a good number.
I mean, the heck with like what we're really talking about. It's all about fantasy and Vegas.
You like Miami minus 2.5?
No.
Taking the Bills?
I don't like all things being equal. I almost never like any home team less than a key number. It's too easy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of a general rule. It's why I didn't like Iowa.
Yeah.
And that wasn't even all things being equal. That was Iowa was the better football team.
Right, yeah. I
still think Iowa is the better football team.
Do you feel that way about the Bills? Like, I kind of just think the Bills are better.
Me too.
Like, I get it's in Miami, but I'd rather be Bills going to Miami than I would be Miami going to Buffalo in November.
So you think Tyreek Hill is distracted?
I mean, I actually wonder about that a lot because you would have thought, like, initially, if he was distracted, it would happen Sunday, right? But you can sometimes block that out.
Especially
in the moment.
It was so quick.
Right. You can and that's kind of where I landed. If it's going to bother him at some point, I mean, on the football field, I'm sure it bothers him in general. I think it would be probably today. Shane,
he's had time to let it sink in.
Yeah, he's talked about it a little bit too. He talked yesterday. Shane, do you have the one about him being better?
Give me a second here.
No. Too busy cracking jokes. I give you no wiggle room. Especially
trying to find James Earl Jones.
More black jokes. I'm calling Bill. I am. I'm just telling on everybody.
Okay, which one do you want?
The one about him being better.
Where's Chris? Get him on the phone.
Oh, you want me to call him?
Yeah. He's a little tougher. I'm calling Chris for sure.
What, on me?
Yes.
Why?
Because I think Chris has less patience. He doesn't mess around. Play the clip, Shane.
Well, I could be better.
I could have been better. I could have let down my window, in that instant. But the thing about me is, man, I don't want attention. I don't want to be like cameras out, phones on you, in that moment. But at the end of the day, I'm human. I gotta follow rules. I gotta, do what everyone else would do. So now, does that give them the right to literally beat the dog out of me? Absolutely not. But at the end of the day, I wish I could go back and do things a bit differently.
Yeah. Yeah,
I appreciate that he said that.
Yep, because I was going to sound off, but I didn't feel like people were prepared to hear.
Because two things can be true at the same time.
100%.
And I think he acknowledged both of those things.
But here's the thing. This just fits my personality. So if you like, if folks don't like this, they're gonna be like, that damn DB again. I'm a big don't leave it to chance. Control what you can control.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not necessarily the butterfly effect guy, but
your actions
they do have consequences,
and they can cause other people's actions to change.
So maybe if you roll down the window, now get it. I didn't love the tap either. What's the first thing I said to you? I said, is that how
you normally tap on a window?
Police normally just roll down your window.
Do the police knock.
But when he kept saying repeatedly, don't knock on my window, bro.
Mm-hmm.
Don't knock on my window. Don't knock on my window. See, at that point, things we want the other person to de-escalate.
Yeah.
And I get that's what they're trained to do. I do.
Yeah.
But how about you control what you can control? You don't have to roll it all the way down. Like we've seen plenty of videos.
Mm-hmm. Just crack
it so you can communicate. And they can hear. The tent clearly wasn't legal.
Yeah, too dark.
And then you roll the window back up. So immediately I thought, shoot, Hill, he's not just pulling you over. He's pulling over all the other previous stops. I know you feel like that doesn't pertain to you, but I think you need to rethink that. It does pertain to you, because the natural inclination would be, oh, fudge, that doesn't have anything to do with me. But it does, because you're the one that needs to get home. You're the one that needs to get to the field. Like, and I didn't even, the weird thing, I didn't even make it about, it wasn't even a race thing. It was a respect thing, because the officers appeared to be non-white, at least two of the main officers.
Yeah, I think
right?
based on their names, I think they were Hispanic.
Okay, so
or Cuban, I think maybe somebody said one of them was.
So I didn't get into that. I just felt like control what you can control, because I've tried it both ways, right? I've been I'm clearly in the right. Why did you pull me over? And I've also been the, hey, you know what? And then whatever, right? We had a security checkpoint with the sheriff's department on Q Street like 3 weeks ago. Super long line. Guy, the sheriff was like, hey, come on over. This is like 2:00, right? Getting ready to go to West Side. And I got the Damon thing again.
Well, they knew who you were.
So that's the second time it happened, and for the same thing. There's going to be the license plate in the front window, but I went from putting it in the front, not having one at all, to putting it in the front. He's like, "Hey, are you going to get that deal repaired? If you do," I thought he was making fun of the dent in my car.
Yeah.
He's like, "Hey, are you going to get that fixed?" And I go, "Actually, I am." Like I'm like, "Yeah, my buddy Jeff, you know." He goes, "Hey, have him throw a license plate bracket on that thing too. Just drill a couple spots." He goes, "Thanks, Damon. Be right back." And I go, "But he goes, come on, man. Like, pretty obvious." And I had a choice, right? I could have been like, man, I had a choice. I could have been like, you should do this, or you don't know, don't. Just chill. He was cool. He's like, hey, training a new guy. We want to make sure we follow protocol. Sit tight. Totally chilled the whole thing, right?
Yeah.
I think with Tyreek, it's like, okay, I'm going 25 over in a construction. I get pulled over. Just if you only want to crack the window. And if you roll it down, don't roll it back up. Yeah. Like, he can't see. Right? So I was glad to hear him say,
I could have done better.
I didn't like the but. I wish he would have used an and.
Yeah.
And he could have handled it different. And not but, because then it kind of pulls away from what I think his original good message was going to be.
Yeah, I do think, and we can get to this when we come back, I think everything you said is true. I still think there's more into that story, though.
All right, let's roll.
More on Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Welcome back to Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill. Coming up on the show today, we've got Alexis Boulos. She's the general manager of Union Omaha at 8:30.
And the catalyst with one of the greatest text exchanges of all time.
Brian Edwards, our Vegas insider, at 8:45. Michael Bruntz of Husker 24/7 at 9. And then we'll talk to J.W. Cox, the play-by-play voice of UNI football, at 9:45. Start to preview the Panthers.
Yeah, there is another game this week. I think we probably should get to that.
We had Buffaloes, and now we're just like, we're good. No, I did want to touch on that Tyreek Hill situation though before we moved on.
Such strong opinions in our inbox.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said. First off, which is very rare. I don't like doing that because you're almost never right. That's not true. You're right more than you're not, but I don't like telling you that because I worry about the ego getting inflated. I'm just here to try and keep you humble, But I agree with pretty much everything you said. I believe that is 100% true. I also believe there's another thing that's 100% true, and that the officer never had to let it get to where it got in terms of the escalation of the situation. Tyreek Hill definitely could have acted better. But we also have to remember that there is someone who is trained for these situations, and then there is a civilian. In that particular incident, Tyreek Hill was the civilian. Police officers are trained, as you mentioned, de-escalation is their main goal in almost every situation, right? And That did not seem to be at the forefront of this police officer's mind. I don't know what he was thinking. I mean, I legitimately don't. It seemed like he was really ready to escalate that thing in a way that really didn't need to happen. Especially, and I get, hey, rolling the window back up can be disrespectful. Don't like that. But after you realize it's Tyreek Hill, I would assume, and maybe this is a bad assumption, I would assume in that situation, oh, I'm probably not in danger. Tyreek Hill's driving to work, driving to his football game. As a police officer, I'd probably then assume, oh, this is going to be fine. Let's get this done. I'm going to hit him with the ticket for going 25 or driving recklessly or whatever I think it was, whatever whatever it was. I'm not saying Tyreek Hill wasn't being crazy with his car. I just don't know the specifics of what he was being cited for. And let's move on, right? If I'm going to assume in that situation, and maybe that's a dangerous assumption. Maybe it's a good thing I'm not a police officer. But I would assume, hey, there's this very famous football player on the way to work. I'm probably not in danger. In terms of from him. Obviously, you still got traffic and stuff you got to be careful for. I get that. Which is why I kind of understood why they didn't want Calais Campbell adding to the situation with his car.
Right.
Like, I get that for sure.
Right. Like that. Yeah.
Like, you don't want somebody
you're doing too much.
Pulling over on the side of the road. It's a busy place. I get that, right?
They clearly told him, just, hey, move your vehicle.
Yes. Right. So, I get that. Again, don't know that situation needed to escalate to where it did, where Calais Campbell also ends up in handcuffs, but I understand, hey, we don't need extra cars here. We don't want this being more confusing than it is.
He doesn't know Calais Campbell, though.
Right, yes.
He's a big guy.
Yes. And you can make an assumption based on where they're at in traffic. They're like very close to the stadium and the car and the size of the guy. You're probably like, okay, also likely a football player, but you don't know because you don't have his ID.
There's no way they're processing.
No, for sure.
Okay.
You had Tyreek.
Okay. Because I didn't want you to think.
No.
Okay.
I understand why they were unhappy about the Calais Campbell situation. Okay. But by the time you've got Tyreek Hill's ID, which by the time the window went back up, he did.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
And I guess, I know enough law enforcement. I'm curious. Mm-hmm. How many police officers do you think are okay with, you have my information, I don't answer questions? Because we're starting to see more people do that, mm-hmm. that kind of understand the law.
Yeah, I don't think they love that either. That'd be my guess. I would see.
They went through the stretch of the whole articulable. Am I under arrest? Mm-hmm. Am I being detained? Mm-hmm. Like, we've seen people go through.
Yeah, because they kind of understand the process now.
I won't say gaming. I'm just saying understanding your rights as a citizen.
Yes, working within your rights in that situation. And so I definitely get that. But I don't at least, and I don't have a
because he had that option too, right? Like, yeah. Hey, you have my information.
So here's the thing that I wanted to touch on specifically, right? Is I think there's still a world where Tyreek Hill does everything he's supposed to, and the officer still kind of escalates the situation. Like, if he had done that, because that's well within his rights, right? He's like, hey, you've got my information. I don't want to answer any more questions right now, or whatever the proper thing is to say there within your rights. I've seen videos, and I don't know how common this is. I know these are anecdotal, but I've seen videos where that is viewed as disrespectful by the officer as well, right? The window going up was seen as disrespectful. Obviously, I get that. I've seen it where, hey, I don't want to answer any questions without a lawyer. You've got my information, is also seen as disrespectful.
Okay, let me ask you something real quick.
Yeah.
So the disrespect thing, because we're just kind of using that term. What about the endangerment of window once up, window once down? Now, when window once down, window up, I can't see anymore.
Yeah, so that's the part, at least the way why I saw the video, is the window didn't go back up until he had his information and knew who he was. So that was where I brought up the, hey.
Okay, so how does that alleviate the potential for, because you think he's assuming, okay, I know this is Tyreek Hill. He's not doing anything he's not supposed to?
Not that he's not doing anything he's supposed to, but as, like, my person is likely not in danger. Like, I don't know. I have to imagine the odds of a wide receiver going to a football game attacking an officer are not real high. That would be my assumption. And again, I'm not law enforcement. I don't know.
I'm just processing real time.
As a person, once I got, this is like, even if I didn't recognize him, I go, this is Tyreek Hill. They're in front of the stadium, right? Like, they're within eye shot of the stadium. Like, I would put two and two together and be like, hey, I'm not in danger here.
Okay.
That's how I would process the situation. Can't say everybody else would too. But I do want to just acknowledge, like, hey, there's And we've seen this before where you can do the things you're supposed to do because, yeah, after the window went up, like that's a Tyreek probably don't do that. Probably don't need to do that, even though he was within his rights to just have it cracked after that, which he did crack it back down again. That once he gets out of the car, did they need to drag him out of the car that way? Did they need to put him on the ground that way?
No.
Did they need to kick his knees out to put him on, to have him sit down on that way?
No.
Like all of that stuff is still like, okay, maybe you do need him to get out of the car. Fair. All right. Hey, I felt like I was in danger because you put your window back up. Your tint's too dark. I can't see what's going on in there. Maybe I don't know football. Maybe I don't know who Tyreek Hill is. Totally fair. Does it have to go like that once you've reached that point? Right. That's the other thing where it's like, okay, let's say he did everything right at that point where it's like, hey man, can't have the window up. That puts me in danger. I don't know what's going on. Let's get out of the car. We need you to step out for a second so I know I'm safe. Right. And if he says that, that probably goes a lot better. Be like, hey man, I can't see in your car. Just step out for a second so I know I'm safe. Put your hand somewhere I can see him. I don't like, maybe you need to detain him or maybe you need to put the cuffs on. Maybe you don't. Be like, hey, just keep your hands on the car so I can see. Once I run this, we'll be done. You get back in the car. We're cool. Right. Like and again, I know it's really easy for me to say talking on the radio, how to de-escalate a situation as a cop, but that's the job. I know it's hard. I've got a really, really good friend of mine who is a police officer, like on the beat, right? I want him to come home every single day, right? We've talked about it, me and him before, where it's like, hey, yeah, there's situations where it's like, hey, I'm just trying to get home. I get that. I also understand that escalating a situation is, while there are times where that has to happen, that more often than not, your best way of coming home is de-escalating situations, right? In that moment, I don't know why that situation had to go that way, even if you need Tyreek to get out of the car. I don't know why it had to go the rest of the way.
So, you know what's interesting? Because this is kind of, I always think, I always tell people I'm in the solutions business.
Mm-hmm.
So, regardless of how you feel about how the tape went, would either entity use that as a demo tape?
As a training video.
For training?
Absolutely not.
So, not even as a civilian would I say, hey,
this is how you should do it.
This is how you should respond to law enforcement.
100%.
Nor do I think, because I don't know any law enforcement so far that were like, yep, I could see why he acted like that.
No.
It was always a yeah, but.
Yeah.
Which I understand, right? Because there is, I think, the assumption of imminent danger, which you have to assume anytime you approach a vehicle.
100%.
Especially if you look at like what's gone on the last handful of years.
100%. Totally understand that.
But I still don't think law enforcement, like the good guys at the job, because we know this, right? Good and bad. There's good and bad civilians. There's good and bad, good and bad surgeons, whatever, right? I still don't think they would use that as cut up either.
100%.
So
there's no way. That's not how they want that situation to go.
So that's why originally I'm like, when I land the plane, I'm like, man, start with controlling what you can control. So that applies to the officer too.
To both situations, right.
But
like if you're Tyreek, you want to control things so you don't end up being asked to get out of the car.
Yeah.
And if you're the officer, you want to control things so that once you have to ask him to get out of the car, you don't end up with him on the ground or with him getting his knees kicked out or whatever, right? Like, both of those people needed to control what they could control better than they did.
Yeah, it was just interesting. I think both were I think Tyreek was pissed that I don't think he felt inconvenienced. You know what I think it was?
What?
I think he didn't want the car, quote unquote, damaged or messed with.
That's what I took when it was knocking on the window.
I think that was like his biggest thing. And I'm like,
he was worried about the car. That's what I thought.
I'm like, that in the grand scheme of things? Like, really? So I immediately went to, gosh, that's kind of petty. So when I asked you the other day, I'm like, how many police have you seen like knock on the window? Because don't most people
usually it's like the one knuckle,
or you crack the window?
Yeah, I start by opening the window so I don't end up in that situation. But like again, it shouldn't all.
This is dumb, but you know what I first thought?
What's that?
I'm like, was that a fresh tent? Like, what's?
Yeah, I don't know.
That's what I thought.
You're like, yeah, he was trying not to roll it down to not mess up the tent or whatever, because you're not supposed to roll them down for however many hours.
It just didn't seem that big of a deal to get mad about.
Yeah, man, I have no idea. It was a weird situation all around. More Hurrdat Sports Radio coming up next.
We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. Welcome to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Kicking off hour number 2 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla, and we're reminding you, if you're on your way to work this morning, make sure you're wearing that seat belt and make sure it clicks. Seatbelts prevent injuries and save lives, but only when worn properly. Make it click. This message from the NDOT Highway Safety Office. DB,
what do you want?
I just want to talk a little bit, have chat.
About what? San Diego State, Fresno State, Boise State,
the Pac-12,
the police.
What is a lot. No, I was going to talk about chasing 3.
Oh yeah, it's good.
It's a good one this week.
Yeah.
Not a fan?
So my favorite,
Mhm.
Would you like to take a stab at what my favorite thing is?
From
Jason
this
Thur-
episode or the series in general?
So this episode has one of my favorite philosophies in it.
What's that?
Competitive stamina.
Oh, yeah. I think I used competitive endurance. Somebody said yesterday competitive stamina.
I'm a big competitive stamina guy.
That's not something we talk about very often.
Can you hang in there longer than the next guy?
Yeah.
At some point, they'll quit before you. You have to train in such a way where
Time doesn't matter.
All the things that I love to say. There is something to be said about competitive stamina.
Which is a really fitting episode for Bud Crawford to be in.
Yeah.
Because I think that's one of his greatest traits.
And
is his competitive stamina.
Because you know what we forget about him?
What's that?
It took forever for him to get a shot.
Yeah. He hasn't forgot.
Hey, and he was a fill-in.
Mhm.
He was like this placeholder.
Yep.
In the meantime.
He took it on short notice.
Yep.
Because he knew that was probably the only shot he was going to get, or the only way he was going to get a shot was in a less than ideal circumstances. And he was ready.
Yeah.
If you stay ready, you don't have to get ready.
That's my...
Rather be found with than without.
Yeah, yes. So really, I'd rather be caught with than without.
Yeah, there you go.
That's what you got all my.
I pay attention sometimes.
Yeah, but that's my whole thing, man.
Yeah.
That was college, right? It's like,
well, in your situation, you had to be.
If you're not going to start me,
yeah,
I'm going to make it uncomfortable. You're not playing me,
right? And when you get your reps, whenever they are,
yep, I'm going for 100 plus.
I would say that you got to get them.
Mm-hmm.
You got to go.
Yeah.
Those
are the people that it's just my personality, right? I was groomed.
And we have that to a certain extent, it seemed like, in the running back room this year, where
now they're going to have, so go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, Dowdell kind of went through.
You're going to have some unique challenges there.
Why is that?
Because you're going to have to, golly, shave that thing, Daniel. You're going to have to endure a little bit because the skill sets aren't so far apart that you're going to rest easy at night.
Yeah, that there's like clear-cut roles.
There's going to be I could do that.
Mm-hmm. Like Ramir probably doesn't think
it was a little easier for me because I could clearly look at LP and be like, I can't do that.
Mm-hmm. But like Gabe Irvin probably looks at Dante Dowdell and says, I can do that.
Yep.
And so Emmett Johnson probably looks at both of them, at Ramir and Dowdell, and says, I can do both of those things.
Yep.
Right.
So
but Ramir probably doesn't look at Dowdell and think to the same degree.
But Ramir has his role.
Exactly. That's what I mean.
So
like Ramir knows, hey, I can do that. And really none of the other three guys can do that the way I can do that.
That will be interesting to watch unfold. I went and specifically watched their pregame.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have any pads on. They're just working ball drills with the quarterbacks and running through their certain plays. And even then, Coach Barthel, they're in a cut up, shorts. They're just getting a sweat in. He's even coaching them hard then. Like that room will be interesting to watch unfold because they're going to have to hang in there.
Yeah, that's going to be a competitive endurance room.
100%. Because everybody's going to contribute before it's
at
over.
Some point. Yeah.
Can you stay? They just run so hard. And when you run into things at a high rate of speed all the time,
yeah, you're going to need a minute sometimes.
Things are bound to happen.
Yeah.
Things
unfortunately, we saw that with Shiloh.
Yeah, things are bound to happen.
Yeah.
So, like their attention to staying competitive emotionally is a real thing.
How does because there was one of the before I get to that, Bud Crawford joked about having some eligibility left.
Yeah,
he'd be a corner, right?
Maybe he may want to play some wide out.
Okay,
not sure about his route running. But
probably good with the ball in his hands though. Hyper quick.
He's just really gonna find a way.
Yeah, I just thought with his reaction times,
I could see him being he's got good hands.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Like he's got.
I've never seen him play football. I've seen him play basketball. He's a good ball player.
He's got exceptional hands.
Yeah.
He doesn't drop a lot of stuff. So.
Yeah. Well, you have to. The hand-eye coordination as a boxer usually pretty on
So
point.
one thing I would like to see him do is like work like press technique. I bet
like
he
some
would be-
hand fighting
I
with the
bet he'd be
receiver.
really good with his hands.
Oh god, that'd be miserable for the receiver.
And he's real, he's twitchy. So the minute you get off, he's like,
Yeah,
he's probably into you,
Yeah, that's what I mean. I feel like he'd be a really good corner.
And he's got good reach, doesn't he?
for his
For his
size.
Yeah.
But he's extremely slight. I mean, did you see him in those pictures?
Yeah.
It's not a big guy.
Although he looked bigger than he had. I thought in the video,
I guess standing between Christian and
not a
Tyson Terry doesn't. I mean, but he trains Tyson sometimes, so he was well aware. Oh yeah, Tyson goes down to the gym. He's well aware.
But I mean, if he was playing corner, he'd probably walk around at like 170.
Yeah,
pretty comfortably.
Because that's like
his,
close to his walking around
his normal
weight.
walk around weight. Yeah. So I mean, he'd be all right.
170.
Ooh. He'd find a way.
Oh no, he's playing tough.
Yeah,
you don't have to worry about that.
And honestly, if he walks around pretty close to 170 now, he could probably get to like 180 and be okay still.
Is a good. I competitive stamina is my baby.
That was a pretty cool behind the scenes to see sort of how the team reacts to him. Because obviously we know how Omaha and Nebraska feels about Bud, but a lot of those guys aren't from here. But to see kind of the appreciation they have for. And I'm sure I'm sure they've been around long enough to know about, especially with his most recent fight with Madrimov, like this, to know what he's about. And especially after watching the Errol Spence fight, you kind of understand like, oh, that's a bad man.
Yeah. And I think it's pretty cool too, how he even now is still driven by the fact that he wasn't supposed to be here.
Yeah.
I'm just a kid from Omaha, Nebraska, like.
What did he say in there? Nothing good's supposed to come out of Nebraska.
Now whether we believe that or not,
no, he believes other people believe that. That's what's important.
That's what I'm saying. That's his truth.
Because he doesn't believe that.
No, I know.
But
and it keeps him. He knows people thumb their nose up at the state.
Full disclosure, that was like a really good summation of what made me so mad about Trev. Is he should know better. He should know better.
I see that.
Like, we know good things come out of Nebraska. You spend enough time here. You should know. I get you're from Iowa. We forgave you for that originally, not anymore. But you've been here long enough. You should know.
Yeah.
You should know better.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
that's interesting.
If you just want to chase the money, cool. Just say it out loud. If you were like, hey, I think this can lead to a better position down the road for what my long-term goals are, cool. Just say it out loud. Don't give me this nonsense about Texas A&M isn't a damn thing that Nebraska isn't. Like, wow. It's not. Go look at their history of anything. Texas A&M has not a thing, except for their weird fake cadets. They don't have a thing that Nebraska doesn't. If you just don't want to be here anymore, you want to go live in Texas, cool. Say it out loud. Like, be a man and say it out loud. That's what makes me mad about Trev, because exactly what Bud said. People outside, people who aren't from here, people who don't know here, they don't think anything good can come out of Nebraska.
It's not something we really understand, to be honest with you.
That's why it's important to me that's part of the reason I gravitated toward Rule initially, was that he didn't hedge what he thought Nebraska could be. He didn't tail tuck on what he thought Nebraska could be. He didn't say, oh, we're going to do our best and we're going to try and compete in the Big Ten West. Opening press conference. Says, we're going to win at the highest level. I don't know when, but we will win at the highest level. It's the first thing we heard from him as the head football coach at Nebraska. That's why I like that dude. Because listen, if for whatever reason he ever leaves, okay, whatever. But while he was here, I 100% believe he knows good things can come out of Nebraska. And that's important to me. I've lived here my whole life. It's one of the only things that's important to me.
It's funny you say that too, because I told you about sitting in his condo when he said, it's funny how nobody ever talks about how much I love this place.
Mm-hmm.
Right? There's just the real reverence and affinity he had for the state.
Yeah, not just the university.
And I was like, shoot.
Not just the football team.
That's going to be important.
He loves it here.
It's funny. We look at all these things that we think are foregone conclusions, right? Like naming Raiola a starter or whatever. But look no further than like two things: moving his parents and letting Bryant go to school here.
You want to throw his wife starting a business here too.
So,
like, those are actual
I could see.
Mm-hmm.
I could see how you may look at the business
as
a convenience thing.
But within the context of the other things,
not so much.
Yeah.
Right? Let's like, well, she likes to stay busy. She's very competitive.
Sure.
She's paid a boatload of money having this process done in other places. Like, let's just make this affordable here and provide a good like I could see that.
Sure.
But
within the context, the parents are a big deal. The parents are a really big deal.
As is
letting your kid go there.
Yeah.
Because
it has to be good for him.
Right. Because there's a lot of situations. Like, what do we know about Greg and Doug McDermott? By the end of the time at Iowa State, people like to think like, oh, he wasn't good enough to get an offer from Iowa State. By the end of his recruitment, he was good enough to get an offer from Iowa State. But both of them have said, hey, this could get uncomfortable for me here. This probably isn't a good call. And I get that Brant's not on the football team. But still, his last name's Rule. Like, it's not a secret who his dad is, right? If he didn't love it here, if he didn't believe this was the best place for him.
And I'm sure Coach Rule tried to talk him out of it.
Sure. But you know what Greg McDermott didn't have any problems with? Letting Doug come over to Creighton, right? Because he thought it was going to be good for him.
I think that's pretty important.
It's 100% it's important.
Because you could just tell, like, the passion and I mean, Coach Rule defends the state and Nebraska. Like, you heard it. We have celebrities here too.
Yeah, he takes it personally.
He does. And I think he wants those guys to take it personally. Like, again, it's why I just chuckle at the whole Penn State narrative, right? And I can't make people believe what I believe, but I'm just like, guys are missing the boat. This isn't like. He's not a next best thing guy.
No, because he's already had the next best thing.
He's always like, he's thinking this is the best thing. And he knows, trust me, he knows. If he makes this thing a monster.
That there's no stopping him.
No one will feel better about that than him because here's the dirty little secret. With the work that he put into, you're going to laugh, being a Berean, having his wife come here with him and doing the homework.
His little secret visit.
Getting a lay of the land. He wants to make that self-efficacy thing a thing because he believed it from the jump. We just took it as, he's just saying the right things. No. His wife wanted to be here. His wife said to him, you need to be here.
Yeah.
I think this could be something special. This place is for you. He's going to make that happen. He just is.
And I think it matters that, like, I have no idea. Like, maybe this is his last job. I have no idea, right? I'm not trying to predict the future. What I do have a good feeling about is he's going to do two things. A, he's going to leave the place better than he found it. That's one of his big things with everybody.
100%.
Right? And B, he hasn't not been truthful with us very often. I can't think of one off the top of my head, right? So whether he's talking about, hey, I love it, I really love this place, or whether he's talking about, I think I can turn this thing into a monster, or we're going to win at the highest level, or whatever he's talking about, I have to believe he'll be honest with us if he leaves too, and be like, hey, I couldn't pat this opportunity, pretend it's Penn State. The opportunity to go, once the opportunity became real to coach my alma mater, I couldn't say no. And I would respect him for it. I wouldn't be happy, obviously, because we have an affinity for him, but I would respect him just being honest, right? Because I think he actually cares about this place enough to tell us the truth. Because at the end of the day, that's what I like. It's not that everything he says is something that I'm like, oh, that's the greatest thing.
Profound.
Yeah. It's that I like that he respects us enough to tell us the truth, and that he respects this place enough to put in the work to make it great, because he understands, like, how many times have you been told over the last 20 years, Nebraska's never going to be what it was. Nebraska can't go back to what it was.
And even indirectly.
Yeah.
It's been intimated, right, in people's press conferences.
Yeah. Coaches who have coached here.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
National media, everybody. But he comes out and says, no. This place can be a monster. What do you have anywhere else that you don't have here? Right? Especially now with the facilities and everything that they've put in, which are unreal. Right? There's not a single thing unless you're just like, I don't want to have to get on a plane to recruit. Guess what? That's that's college football now.
You know who can talk about competitive stamina?
Who?
People that have competitive stamina.
Yeah. That dude's got competitive stamina.
I mean,
there's no doubt about that.
Right. Like whatever. It's the egg thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
You continually hear the consistency of the message. And competition is always somewhere in the middle of what he's saying.
100%.
It's like
100%. That's what he's talking about. When he talks about being the toughest and most physical team, a lot of that is not physical, right? A lot of that's up here.
Yeah.
I get like physical has the word in it, but unless you have the mental fortitude to be physical every play.
It is a mindset.
Yeah. Because physical, a lot of people, there's a lot of jacked dudes playing football that aren't very physical.
You want to land the plane for that philosophy?
Yeah.
What did he tell Coach? He said, all I told Corey was I want what?
The toughest team in America.
Yeah. And so
bring me the toughest football team back that you've got. I don't care what else you do.
So it was mainly about the rigor. I would just kind of tell some anecdotes, just some funny stories about their training and them competing. And I'm like, I bet these guys can't wait for the season.
Yeah, I bet they couldn't wait to get to fall camp, which is worse than the season, right?
Do you know what I mean?
Just get out of conditioning.
Right.
To be like, hey, we are done with conditioning. I am thankful we have to go through this horrible thing in fall camp.
Because we've heard coaches talk about, hey, you know, you got to play past the suck. And when your tank hits E and you got to know you got a little more. You don't just land there.
Mm-hmm. You have to get there.
You have to get there. Because even in your own vehicle, you have to take it to E a couple of times before you know how many miles you have left. You just don't get there and guess right.
Yep.
You have to train.
And your body.
You have to train.
Your mind's going to try and trick you.
With you have to train on empty.
Yeah.
You have to train to empty and then push through. Right? Like, so.
You have to be able to execute when you're exhausted.
He's actually putting. They'll have, hey, remember, you know, in July when we did X, Y, and Z, how does this feel compared to that? And then the players are like, oh, shoot, man, I got something left in the tank.
You have to make sure they know they can do hard things.
It was incredible. I'm listening to this competitive stamina and this deal and chasing three and how they talk. And I immediately went back and almost to a man, any of these guys that were just here this past weekend will tell you, there was a stretch when we were down in Miami the second time in 94 where we were like, and I've kind of intimated this story where we're like, we weren't sure if our legs were going to come back.
Yeah, you thought you were like worn down.
We're like, this doesn't.
Thought you were like going too hard.
This doesn't feel great.
Yeah.
Right. You get off the plane, you're in half racked and full pads, and you're scrimmaging on Christmas. And
how long were you in Miami before?
So I want to say 8 days.
Okay. So you played on the 1st, like the 23rd, somewhere in there?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and he's like, you have to trust me. This is not the worst you felt. Thought about it for a second. He's like, you're dang right it's not. Like, we felt. We don't feel good right now, but this is not the worst we felt. I mean, Coach told you to say it over and over. So once you know, and you like have a frame of reference,
you're like, I can go to that place and be okay.
And we're going to be okay.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I trust you.
So I got to ask about, because another thing that came up in the Chasing 3 doc last night was the Brooke Behringer Award. Is that
with Jamari?
With Jamari winning that. Obviously, Jan and his sister Drew were there in that as well. And Jan, his mom. And that's a guy that I look at from the outside and go, okay, he must have had incredible competitive endurance to be in a position where, because it's one thing to have competitive endurance.
I've joked about him being my favorite, right? And their relationship, Jamari and Coach Rule, it's different.
Yeah.
It's different. Jamari's been through it.
Because he's the guy that you go like kind of gives it to Coach Rule a little bit.
Yep.
Like treats him almost more buddy.
Yep.
At times.
Yep.
You know?
We'll sock him.
Yeah.
They'll go back and forth. Listen to the reverence Coach Rule has for him when he's talking about him and Ty.
Oh, yeah.
Last week. Jamari is a guy. And I'm not going to say I don't know him from Adam, but
you're not as close with him as you are with certain people.
I would. He's a guy that I admire because he has tremendous competitive stamina.
Yeah.
It was not always rainbows and butterflies.
Yeah.
And he just kept asking. He just kept doing what was asked of him. And sometimes he would do it with a little pushback, but it was enough to just let you know he's ornery enough. But he was going to do it anyway.
Yeah.
And you know who that reminds me of?
Who?
That's me.
Yeah.
Right? I may, at the end of the day, I'm going to figure out a way to do it. Don't listen to anything I'm saying in the meantime.
Is it almost like a mental game you play with yourself? It's like, because sometimes, at least for me, I'll kind of act or think a certain way because, like, mentally I have to play tricks with my brain to be like.
Specifically with me, which
Yeah.
I think is a little bit like JB, I think it's important for him to let you know how he feels.
Oh, okay. So he's like, I'm going to do it, but you're going to know how I feel about it?
Yeah.
Okay. Because for me, sometimes I kind of have to like trick myself into stuff.
So I think I really like him a ton. I like his demeanor. I mean, he should be starting, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's like he should be more than a situational guy, right?
Yeah.
You'd think. It's just
he's kind of freaky.
It just is what it is, and he couldn't care less. This dude's going to go to work.
Yeah.
Yeah, that award, like.
Do you think the current team kind of grasps what the award means?
So I think Coach Rule does a very good job of not being willy-nilly with it.
Yeah.
I don't think
that was always the case.
The background is there. The reverence is there.
Yeah.
I mean, he was the ultimate teammate.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's what Coach Osborne said in the doc, right? It's like, hey, there's not an award for Brooke because of what he did in 94 when he actually played. It's about what he did in 95 when he didn't.
Yeah. He's the ultimate teammate.
Because today you'd think like, oh, that guy doesn't stick around.
Did what he's asked.
Yeah. Even though that was not the best thing for him personally, it didn't seem at the time.
No.
As a football player.
That's
hard to do.
It's difficult. Trust me.
There's not a lot of people that are willing. We talk a lot about like owning your role. It's a lot easier to own your role when it's something you like, right?
Yeah. Could you guys be roommates on the road? You're competing with one another. We'll be fine. I cheer for him. You know what I mean? Like, It's not easy.
No, it's not.
Hey, man, go get him tomorrow.
I'll be there. It's not easy.
Just telling you.
That was good stuff, though, in the Chasing 3 doc. Always appreciate those coming out. Coming up next, we're going to talk to Alexis Boulos. She's the GM of Union Omaha here on Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We will be back. 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 You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Welcome back to Hurrdat Sports Radio. We're halfway through the show here on AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here on the Pillar Exterior stage. We are joined now by Alexis Boulos. She's the GM of Union Omaha. Alexis, how are you this morning?
Morning, guys.
Wait, are you in the office already?
I am.
Gosh, you guys, wait. You're getting ready for practice, right? Was that about 9?
No, they played last night. Clearly missed that one.
No. Well, I mean, you wouldn't bring it. We practice the day after we play.
No, they're in Colorado.
Well, you can train, right?
Yeah, but I'm not there.
Wow.
They don't take you on the road trip?
It was a late match last night. I don't know how much you were up for.
I tell you what, West Side alum, I want you to talk with my coach and let him know when we play next Thursday that those guys shouldn't be in school Friday morning.
I'll let him know. Yeah.
Well, you got getting a lot done in the community. I'm pretty sure you got stroke enough to tell him what to do. You guys.
No, I don't.
I'm not sure.
0.
I'm not sure Lamanji's listened to a lot of people on that one.
Yeah, that's true. He doesn't even listen to his staff. It's okay.
So, Alexis, you mentioned the team obviously played last night as part of the USL Jägermeister Cup. So for people that aren't aware, like how did that come about, the whole Jägermeister Cup, and like how is it different from some of the other matches that they're playing this year?
So it's an in-season cup, and it came across pretty late in the game for us, schedule-wise. So it's been a challenge. It was a challenge to kind of get it all figured out and when they were going to play certain teams. So as as you can see, we're playing Northern Colorado back-to-back. We're there basically the entire week because we played them Jaeger last night, and then we play them regular season on Saturday. So it kind of has complicated the schedule a little bit. Plus we play a lot of teams so many times. We've already played NOCO, that we play pretty frequently. So the sponsorship is great. And I think it's something that they're trying to do new and different within the league. It would be really nice if it wasn't just an interleague, if championship was participating and we were able to kind of make it more competitive in nature, because it's interesting because we had this conversation with, we had a team talks last night before a watch party over at the Dundee Dell, and talked to some fans and supporters. It was a good spot. We had some fun last night. It was nice. They're a great partner.
Nothing like the district, the former 66ers staying Midtown. Well done.
Damon, I live 2 blocks from where I grew up. Let's not start that conversation.
Let's go.
I mean, it's not intentional, I promise, but it just happens that way.
You like what
right?
you like. Yep.
It just happens that way. I moved away for a long time and came back. I knew what I was missing.
I got you.
But we talked about how the fans would rather see us play other teams, right? They get, I don't want to say tired, but it gets to be the same teams all the time. We got some feedback about their concerns about our players getting injured during the Jägermeister Cup and it not having, and them not having the same ability to participate in regular season. And, that's a concern too. We look at later on as the schedule gets full, to have these in-season cups like other leagues are doing. What does that do to our schedule? Specifically for us, in our shared stadium situation right now, it really complicates things. So the Jägermeister Cup has been great. I think it's brought a lot of excitement with PKs at the end of each match that were tied instead of ending in a tie, which is great. But I think there's still some kinks to work out. The partnership with Jägermeister has been wonderful. There's been a lot of social media buzz about it. I think a lot of fans really like it. So we're just we're still working through what that looks like.
Do you like the way... And it maybe this is more from the player's perspective, right? Because you'll play again on the 14th.
Saturday.
And then you'll come back with a week off before you get one Knoxville. Does the travel and staying there, is the weekend between okay with kind of how the schedule sits in the middle of the season with the players? Like, do they understand kind of the whole cup phenomenon? May seem like a little bit of an inconvenience, but it's part of the greater good.
Right. So the travel thing for us is a challenge.
Yeah.
There aren't a lot of teams that are in the Midwest, right? So we have Colorado, which is relatively close. We have Madison, which is relatively close. And we're saying relatively close, meaning 8-hour drive. But other than that, we have to go a great distance to get to our counterparts that are halfway across the country. So the travel bit is a lot. So this piece, I think they were a little bit hesitant to be in Colorado for this long.
I would imagine.
And be away from home. But I think it's going to give them some time to settle in between matches, because had we drawn, let's just say Madison last night, they would have gone to Madison, come home, had a day, then gotten right back on another plane and gone to NOCO. And that is obviously the nature of the business that we're in. And unfortunately, the league is small and young right now, and we're growing, and there's going to be more teams added at the end of the season, and will continue to grow. But that's just adjustments we have to make, being in Nebraska, unfortunately.
With the development of the new park that's coming, the new pitch, will that maybe preeminent is too strong of a word, but well, could that potentially be considered the place to be for like hosting and sites and being? You're not even going to be centrally located, but a convenient place to play with how that pitch is going to be built?
We absolutely hope so. I mean, that is going to be it's going to be a development that is going to be amazing for our city. Like you said, we're right in the middle of everything. So our hope is that not only will we host our teams, youth organizations, and youth leagues, but that we will be able to recruit other events to come and play, and other events that may not be soccer for that stadium, and host them. You know, Omaha is an amazing place to host events. Obviously, we see that with College World Series. We see that with a lot of things. And so if we can become a part of that ecosystem in downtown Omaha and in the Midwest, I think it's going to be fabulous for all of us.
Because you obviously picked a great location. It's self-sustaining too, because you have hotels, you can eat. Like it could be its own village if people look at it that way around the league.
Correct. And it's going to begin to become more of just the stadium. It's, you know, there's a large development around the property that is part of what we're doing. And so that's a big deal. And that's important for us to have partners like Heinz that are coming in, and they're amazing. And so they're helping us. They're smarter than we are in the real estate development area all around the country. And so that is going to be something that is going to bring people to us. And it's just exciting to be a part of.
Alexis, I'm always curious with stuff like the Jägermeister Cup. And obviously that comes from a kind of European soccer influence where they have their in-season cups and things like that. I'm always curious when you're part of an American soccer league where, like, how much do you take from Europe where they've been doing this for 150 years and they've got all this history and stuff that some of it probably makes sense, some of it probably doesn't. It's just kind of how they've done it forever. And how much do you try and kind of chart your own path in what is obviously a different market for the sport?
That's interesting because you've obviously had success, but you just said, oh, they're smarter than us. So whether it's the developers or the league model, like, you have to be willing to kind of receive some information too, even though you're pretty bright in what you do.
You know, the learning curve is huge, right? So we just got back. We were at USL meetings Monday, Tuesday this week in Dallas, and all the teams come together with league partnership, and we just learn from each other, right? So your question is great about U.S. versus European soccer, and we had this discussion as well last night with some of our fans at the team talk, and it's one of those things where we want to start to create a fan base that is outside of the true soccer fan. We need to continue to build soccer in the United States and in Omaha. And in order to do that, we have to capture new fans. So how are we going to do that without alienating those fans that watch Premier League and La Liga and those types of things that are traditional soccer, and incorporate our own ideas and continue to build and not, it's an interesting intersection of a fan base. So, you know, is it things that we do in stadium that can draw those new fans out? Is it things, I don't know that there's anything that we would, it was an interesting conversation about whether or not the PKs last night that are in the Jägermeister Cup, if people like those, if they don't like them, you know, and also trying to get the not everyday fan to understand the different rules. So
or
if you're
just a diehard soccer fan to be inviting of those that may not be as bright.
Correct. Well, and you know, we're not all as bright when it comes to soccer.
Clearly, I wouldn't think you guys would be training the night after you played. I mean, you know.
But it's just one of those things, you know, we've got an interesting growth trajectory, and we have to take advantage of the eyeballs that are on us right now. You know, women's soccer is amazing and has had huge success in the United States. It continues to grow and outpace men's right now. We have to do something to get eyeballs on us, and whether or not that's on the pitch or whether or not that's something that we do from a marketing perspective to engage those fans, we're all just trying to figure those things out. You know, is it with our season ticket members? What is it that is going to make us unique while not alienating the true purist soccer fan?
Alexis, we appreciate the time as always. Great stuff. We'll talk to you again soon.
Thank you.
See you guys. Thanks.
That's Alexis Boulos, GM of Union Omaha. We'll be back with Brian Edwards on Hurrdat Sports Radio coming up next.
be back. We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio. Now, Vegas insider, senior handicapper, and fan of the cold Budweiser bottles, Brian Edwards.
It's got to be touchdown, touchdown, touchdown.
Brian Edwards.
I don't really love it.
Brian Edwards.
Were they using the cream cheese to butter the bagel?
Brian Edwards.
I'm going with the cowgirl.
Here is Brian Edwards.
Wrapping up hour number 2 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. We're joined now by Brian Edwards, our Vegas insider, MajorWager.com. What's up, B?
What's up, fellas? How we doing?
I'm good. Hey, listen, that's 2 weeks in a row. You got your button situated, man. It's like the Jeffersons. We're moving on up.
We're on a win streak. It has happened before.
We call that a winning streak. Good job, Lou. B, how we feeling this week, man, with Gator bait and everything else going on with Florida? I hate to always start with the university, man, but that is going to be a great job for somebody.
Right. Lane Kiffin. I hope.
Oh Lord, are you lobbying for that? He's going to leave the SIP
man,
and go down to Gainesville with that nutty fan base.
Not a chance. Come on, B.
Well, if they make the CFP, which they're probably going to do, it may not work out, in terms of the hiring process. But that's the goal is Lane Kiffin. 1 million.
Could I interest you in an Eli Drinkwitz? Yes, no, maybe so.
I mean, anybody interests me above Billy Napier. So
I tell you quietly, and they've got a good schedule because we broke Missouri down. He's a great recruiter.
Yeah, I mean, he's been getting those 5 stars out of St. Louis a lot.
You don't want the St. Louis folks down there in Gainesville, or like what? You seem a little blah.
Oh no! David Lee was a 5-star from St. Louis, going back in hoops.
Oh, nice pull.
Billy Donovan.
Warriors great. Warriors great. David Lee.
Oh,
wait, and so what? So was Bradley Beal. Bradley Beal was a St. Louis guy as well.
Yeah. So was Jason Tatum, my least favorite Celtic.
All right. Ravi went from Golden State fanboy to back to hating on Jason Tatum. So it's come full circle.
I'm fluid like that.
All right, B. Let's see if we could make some folks some money. Speaking of Lane Kiffin, laying 23 in the hook against the Demon Deeks. What do we think?
Yeah, I don't like to lay big numbers, especially on the road, but I like to back Lane Kiffin. And, since Sam Hartman, Clausen had it going pretty good at Wake, but since Sam Hartman announced he was transferring to Notre Dame, Wake Forest is only 5-9 straight up, 4-9-1 ATS. They couldn't beat Virginia at home last week. The Rebels are 6-1-1 against the spread their last 8 as road favorites, including 2-0-1 ATS is double-digit road favorites. Virginia threw for 357 yards against Wake, so I think Jackson Dart throws for north of 400, and I think Ole Miss rolls.
B, speaking of another large number, Coastal Carolina minus 18.5 at Temple. How you feeling?
Yeah, I like Coastal here, and some books have gone down. I noticed some 17.5s. This morning. This is just a fade of Temple, which is awful. They lost 51-3 to Oklahoma, and then Oklahoma only went 16-12 to Houston the next week. And then they were down 38-3 to Navy late third, and Navy kind of called off the dogs, 38-11 final. And Temple's got some injuries. Their starting quarterback is questionable after getting knocked out of last week's game, and their best receiver is also out, along with a starting offensive tackle. Coastal won 55-27 at Jack State, and then covered as they beat an FCS team last week. So I'll go with Coastal laying. If it's 17.5, I'd buy it to 17, but I'm good up to 19ish.
All right, there's 2 games. One you actually have on your slate. There's another game I'll ask you about at the end, if Ravi saves me time, of a 2-0 team getting points against a team that has a loss. But I'll start with South Carolina. I told Ravi this was the sneaky game of the week on Monday. I don't know if South Carolina fans actually like Beamer or they don't. One week he's a hero, the next he's on the hot seat. Coming off a huge win. I'm shocked they're catching points. I really am. I think this is a good football team. What say you? They're catching 7 at home against LSU.
Well, I don't trust the young quarterback yet. He fumbled 3 times at Kentucky, but they didn't lose any of the fumbles. He did throw another pick, but he did look better in general. Talking about Lenoris Sellers, he had 2 touchdown passes. But for me, it's all about South Carolina's front 7, particularly their front 4. I don't blame anybody if you haven't watched South Carolina yet. The ODU game wasn't well, it was a close game, but
they didn't play well.
Redshirt freshman. Right. But this redshirt freshman defensive end, 5-star Dylan Stewart, holy moly. If there were odds on who's going to be the number 1 pick in the 2027 draft, I would take him. He was beating triple teams last week. He's going up against 2 offensive tackles. They're both projected first-round guys for LSU. And the guy on the other side, Kyle Kennard, a transfer from Georgia Tech, he's nasty as well. He's got 3.5 sacks, 2 forced fumbles. Stewart's got 2.5 sacks and 2 forced fumbles, but he's been drawing penalties. This kid is a monster. He reminds you of Jadeveon Clowney, and I think it's all going to be all about. And look, Nussmeier's been really good, but LSU, they didn't get their first double-digit lead on Nichols until mid-third quarter last week, and the Tigers are only 2-4 against the spread in 6 games as road favorites under Brian Kelly. I like South Carolina +7. And Rocket Sanders. I'm not saying he looks like his 2022 form, but he looks a lot healthier than last year and has looked good.
This line doesn't seem right, but let's go to the NFL real quick with the Commanders favored against, I don't know what the Giants are doing, but that 1.5 scares me.
I'm fading the Giants more than anything, and I'm betting on Jaden Daniels. I think we have a huge advantage at the quarterback position. So I'm on the Commanders here, but hey, I like Jaden Daniels rushing yards prop over 52.5. That's what DraftKings has. I like that maybe better than any play on the whole board all week. So they didn't have the player props for the late games up Sunday morning. So when I'm at the sports bar watching all the games last Sunday, and I see the rushing yards prop pop on Jaden Daniels. It's only 39.5 at plus money. I was betting his over rushing yards in the 80s late last year for LSU. So I jumped all over that. Easy winner. In the mid-second quarter, he had 88 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns. So I like Jaden Daniels over 52.5. I also like the Commanders, but more on Jaden Daniels rushing yards prop.
Hey, B, I want to go back to college here for a second because you've got Memphis +7 at FSU. I dumped on Florida a little bit, so I'm giving you a turn to kind of give it back on the Seminoles. Is that more about you like Memphis or you're fading Florida State?
I would say probably 60-40 fading Florida State. And there's no more 7s out there. Actually, I see 1 offshore, but I got 7 early in the week. I'd buy the half point to 7. And I like Seth Hennigan, Memphis's quarterback. They'll be highly, highly motivated, knowing if they can get this win, they potentially become a real player to be the G5 team in the CFP. So, until FSU shows, they've got some things corrected, I'll go against them again.
This line stinks. I referenced it Tuesday, and it's on your plays. How in the world are the Colts only favored by 3 against Green Bay? They're begging you to take the Colts. Are you taking the bait?
I'm taking the bait. I'll fade
Hook,
Malik
line, and
Willis.
sinker, baby.
Yeah, I got to fade Malik Willis.
He's bad. How is it only 3?
I know, and Green Bay's defense didn't. I know Philadelphia's got a really good offense, but Green Bay's defense did not look good last week, and I just don't think Malik Willis is going to get much offense going for the Packers unless he's improved a lot. Because the few times we've seen him in the NFL, he has not looked good.
Let me sneak one in if you don't mind here, B, because I think the points may be a gift. I watched them in the Big Ten 60, and I came away less impressed with Illinois and pretty disturbed by Kansas. They're favored over UNLV, and it's more than a touchdown. Man, it wouldn't surprise me one bit if UNLV won that game outright, and they're getting 7.
Yeah. Well, I thought Kansas had kind of some wacky plays go against them in the Illinois game. Obviously, Daniels, the uncharacteristic pick 6 before halftime, was an absolute killer. Yeah, but I'm not going against UNLV, man. Especially when you see what they did at Houston, and then Houston taking Oklahoma
tough
to the wire. Yeah, in Norman. So yeah, I don't have a good feel on this one. I'm not going to talk you off of the underdog. I could, UNLV. Barry Odom's done a heck of a job there, and
He's coaching for a big job next year.
Yeah, and he almost had Petrino he did have Petrino as the OC before Jimbo took him at the last minute going into last year. Yeah, that's a pass for me.
Gotcha.
That's Brian Edwards, our Vegas Insider, MajorWager.com. B, we appreciate it as always. We'll talk to you next week.
Thanks, B.
Thanks, guys. Have a great week.
Michael Bruntz from Husker 24/7 coming up next here on Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. We will be back.
To this day.
Welcome to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
You know, what attracted us to them really was, you know, they both have played big-time football, right? Both have made plays in college. And then we met them as people, and they were unbelievable people, unbelievable leaders. We knew we had a young group that we could use some older mentors in, and they really embraced that role. Excited with where they're at, but there's a lot to improve on. Just thinking about last week, there's a lot to improve on, and we look to do that this week.
Kicking off hour number 3 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, KFOR, and Lincoln. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here at the Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill. We are joined now by our friend Michael Bruntz from Husker 24/7. Bruntsy, what's going on, bud?
Not much. How you guys doing?
Good. Is he throwing around the word friend too loosely, or is that okay?
I raised an eyebrow, but I'll allow it.
I mean, if we're not friends, then you've been hanging around me for 25 years for too long. Then I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, I don't know why I would say, but I do. So yes, I would consider you a friend. Yes.
Bruntz, I suppose I should just Google this, but I'm going to take advantage of you being here because this has nothing to do with anything. But
okay.
Do you think crickets have ears? Because I'm just curious. Like, what is it when you get close that they stop cricketing or whatever they do?
Chirping?
Yes.
Is that the word? Is that a verb?
Whatever.
The sound they make is actually cricketing.
Whatever. Chirping. It's not chirping.
It is chirping. It's called chirping.
I think we call it chirping, but it's not a chirp. Bruntz, do they have ears?
I don't know. It's a shame that my daughter is at school because she always hits me with a random animal facts like that. I learned a really good one about cheetah cubs yesterday.
Ooh, what about cheetah cubs?
Well, apparently when they're young, cheetah cubs have I have no idea if this is true. It's probably not. So don't take a bullet for it. But apparently they have white on their fur on their back as a way to confuse predators into thinking that they're like honey badgers and different apex type predators in Africa.
Interesting.
I do confuse a cheetah cub with a badger from time to time.
You frequently do.
Yeah.
It's so like I said, I don't know that that's true. That's what she told me. But I'm passing it along and spreading lies.
It would be hilarious if your daughter was making up fun facts and just trolling you. That would be incredible.
I would not put it past her at all. Like she was telling me, I'm like, there's no way this is true. You're doing it again.
You can't tell me I'm the only one that ever wonders why crickets are all of a sudden quiet.
They apparently do have ears. They're located on the tibia of their front legs.
Yeah, so why can't you ever find them? You can hear them, but it's like you get close and they're like, ooh, gotcha. I'm not going to cricket anymore.
Well, they're pretty small, so I'm guessing that's, hard to find. Not like Dion, not hard to find,
I feel like you're making fun of me.
You said the ears are on the tibia?
Yeah, they're on their legs, apparently. That's what
Google
AI is telling me, which may be as reliable as your daughter when it comes to animal facts, but I don't know.
I'm going to wow her with an animal fact and pickup today, so thank you guys.
We're just here to help, Bruntz.
Apparently, I'm the only one that's ever wanted to find out the source of crickets. So.
Apparently not, because, there's a whole thing here.
Thank you.
Oh, our boss just texted us. The cheetah fact is true.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Score one for little Bruntz.
Yeah.
Huh. I've never once confused a badger and a cheetah cub.
Bruntz, have you ever once confused the Mountain West for the Pac-12? Because I think we're about to.
It's all the same. It's a little. Who's the honey badger in that situation, by the way?
Wow.
I think the Pac-12, because they don't give a what.
Yeah.
Well, I think Oregon State and Washington State, if we're just going to stick with the animals, the Cougs and Beavs are actually probably pretty happy that they can at least form a conference, right? Because that makes 6.
Yes, I believe that's true. I don't know how excited I am about a pared down Mountain West now, though, because who's the? Because you're losing San Diego State, Boise,
Fresno,
and Colorado State.
And Colorado State, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I get too excited about what's left of the Mountain West. I'm assuming there's got to be more, right, that are going along with them.
Yeah, I have to. Those are the 4 that announced today and accepted today. I imagine
baby steps, Bruntz. They can at least have an official conference now.
Yeah, I imagine the Mountain West is basically just going to be rebranded as the Pac-12. I mean, I assume that's basically what we're going to get here.
Yeah, I don't know because it's the like West Coast NCAA stuff is fascinating to me because I don't know how often you guys look at who's in the WAC these days, but it's like a new school every year. It's like a farm system for whoever's going up the line. So maybe you get like Southern Utah or something like that in the Mountain West before long here.
Bruntz, are you prepared to shift like your thought process, or are you pretty locked in on the trajectory of Nebraska if you're not going to base it on what other teams in the conference are doing? Because I can already hear Colorado's not very good, and how's Northern Iowa compared to Colorado? Like, we can't just have nice things. Why are we doing that already, Bruntz?
I don't know. I mean, there was a lot of nitpicking after it's interesting because the way that the game kind of ended against Colorado in the second half, it kind of invited that stuff, I think. And I mean, I don't know that you're going to feel a ton better about, or learn anything more about things after Northern Iowa. I mean, I'm sure you guys are going to be talking about Illinois like they're the 85 Bears.
I'm not.
Before
I told
they come in here.
Robbie
It's
tried to
starting.
scare. Well, and blame your friend Ravi. That sounded real weird, but
I'm a Miller North guy, can be trusted.
This guy's trying to tell me that they're. I mean, Camino Bell and everybody's like back now. Rashad Mendenhall. I'm like, knock it off.
Until Juice Williams walks through that door, I'm not interested.
He wants me to really be afraid
All
about
I
it.
said is I think they're way better than I expected, which I think is true.
He's being influenced.
No, I go along.
I am an
with that,
influencer. Thank you.
Wow.
Your word is your bond. But I do think that that they at least deserve a second look. I mean, they're probably better than I would have expected. But no, I mean, I know what you're talking about, Damon. It's like you don't want to believe what's in front of you sometimes, or at least you want to be skeptical of it. And I don't know if part of that is just the way the last decade's gone. I mean, I think you have to remember that there's quite a bit of scars from the way things have played out over the last decade, even if it's a completely different coaching staff and team and all that stuff. So I can see both ways where, you want to see it a little bit more if you're a fan. And at the same time, I think you might have to also consider that this Nebraska team might actually be okay.
Now, I'm just not here for the Colorado isn't very good. Nebraska needed to win that game. They hadn't won that game in a long time. And I'm going to tell you, Northern Iowa isn't very good. So, I think I can say those things and be okay, independent of how Nebraska plays. We do it with every other team, right?
Yeah, it's just the PTSD.
We don't hedge it.
It's the fan PTSD. I had people trying to tell me yesterday that we better watch out for Northern Iowa. And I was like, no, they should beat the life out of Northern Iowa.
Wow. Robbie here for beating the life out of people.
Metaphorically.
Yeah.
Wow.
No, I mean, I get it. I get it. I mean, even when Nebraska was humming along, you did that too. I mean, back when Nebraska was winning 9 games every year, people were talking themselves a lot into Purdue and Illinois and those teams who beat Nebraska, by the way, regularly during that time. But, I mean, it's part of the deal. Like I almost kind of expect it by now, it's like, it's just you bake it into game week. You build up the opponent, and then you go play the games, I guess.
And then you beat the life out of them, and then you tear them down and be like, oh, and then they weren't that good anyway, right? Like that's what we did with Colorado, right? We're like, oh, they got these NFL guys, and we're scared and whatever. And it's like Nebraska plays well, so it's like that guy who or that person who they like somebody, they want to go out with them, and then they're like, oh, why would you go out with me? That's weird, and then you don't like him anymore. It's like that's what Nebraska fans are doing.
I don't even I can't relate to that. I'm just saying.
There's some people that are like so kind of self-sabotaging about themselves that they think, oh, it can't be that we're good.
Bruntz,
it has to be the other person's bad.
I'm here for why in the world wouldn't you like me? What are you missing? Okay? No.
That sounds very on brand, actually.
Can you believe I work with this guy, Ravi? He's so Bruntz.
This has been a very informative segment for me in a number of ways, aside from the cricket facts, I have to say. I'm learning a lot.
Okay. Again, apparently I'm the only guy that ever wants to know where crickets actually are when I hear them. Okay, it's fine.
No, I want to know where they are. I was just never like, okay, I'm looking for this cricket. I bet if I knew where its ears were, it'd be easier to find.
No, I'm like, well, how do they know when to be quiet?
It's the miracle of life, DB. I don't know.
See what he does. See, I feel like he's making fun of me, Bruntz. Him and our other 85 listeners are like, God, this dude's an idiot. I listen to this guy.
Step a little softer. Maybe that's the problem.
Listen, man, I'm authentic. What can I say, Bruntz? Can we step back here for a second and say, you know what, Nebraska is better suited to play against Northern Iowa than they are Colorado? Why shouldn't we expect them to be better?
You're asking me to make the case for why Nebraska can't play
Yeah, like,
Northern Iowa?
so if Nebraska doesn't play well, it's clearly on Nebraska, right? It's not about Northern Iowa because they're built better to defend Northern Iowa.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's probably safe to say that Nebraska will be the best defensive line that Northern Iowa has faced so far this year.
Really going out on a limb there, Bruntz.
That was supposed to be the drollest joke ever.
See?
But I mean, this is a game that Nebraska should be able to dominate up front. I think Nebraska has better skill players. I mean, if this is a game in the fourth quarter, it's likely that Nebraska has made a lot of self-inflicted mistakes, or you have just the absolute flukiest type things that have happened during the game. I mean, that's the only scenario I can really get to where that's like a really, really close game. I mean, I people say, oh, McNeese State came in here and played well against Nebraska. South Dakota State was the same way. Well, those are fine teams, but a lot of the reason why those were games in the fourth quarter were because of what Nebraska did or didn't do. So, I mean, I think I'm eager to see if the way that Matt Rule approaches things and this coaching staff approaches things off the field translates to a pretty no-nonsense, ho-hum type game where you're getting the third teamers in there late in the third quarter. I mean, I think that's, if it's, like I said, if it's still a game late, I think it's more about what Nebraska has done to itself or not done than anything about Northern Iowa.
Bruntz, have we gotten to the point yet, at least in your mind, where you're looking at the schedule and you go, okay, based on what we've seen from Nebraska so far, if they don't beat themselves, they should be 7-0 going into Ohio State. Like, have we gotten? Well, I'm just kind of taking our logical conclusion of what we're talking about. There's no team on the schedule in the next 5 games that I look at and say, oh, they're better than Nebraska.
Do you see I'm emotionally shaming him into backtracking, Bruntzy? It's
not backtracking.
It's a DB mind
like,
trick.
are we at that point yet where you've seen enough to say?
Just fast forwarding through the schedule, huh, Ravi?
100%. Yeah, none of the teams they play are good. If
Illinois got Juice Williams,
have we got
and Rashad Mendenhall?
I was more of an Aurelius Ben guy myself,
and Hardy and everybody else.
Brandon Lloyd ain't walking through that door, brother.
Wow.
Luke Altmaier, Kirk Hittner, he is not. Like, no, man, we got to the point yet. Kind of in this conversation, we're saying is like, hey, if Nebraska loses one of these games, is it on Nebraska? Have you gotten to that point yet?
Yeah. I mean, I mean, is Nebraska going to not be favored in a game between now and that trip to Columbus?
I would imagine they'll be favored in all of them. Yeah.
So, I mean, I think, yeah. I mean, I think if Nebraska takes care of its business, I mean, there's no reason why they shouldn't be, undefeated or close to it going into Ohio. I mean,
They won't face like or better talent until Ohio State, right? Is that? I mean, that's basically what we're saying.
Yes. Rutgers scares me a little bit just with the way they play.
Sure.
And the style of play that they have, and the fact that they're generally pretty good on special teams, which I would not say that Nebraska is at this point. So yeah, I mean, but that's kind of always been the case with Nebraska in some ways. I mean, the challenge has been how do you make sure and actually win those games that you should win. And at least now, I think what you can say is the types of things that Nebraska needed to do this year to have success, the not turning the ball over, that's trending in a very positive direction. I mean, Nebraska's +3. They have had multiple turnovers in back-to-back games, which in the notes this week, that hadn't happened. The multiple turnovers in back-to-back games had not happened since 2020, which is kind of,
God bless your heart for reading the UNI game notes. I'm going to tell Keith Mann to be extra kind. May you get an extra Valentino's cookie.
Gold star for me.
Yes.
I was looking for something like that because I was like, that is that surprising? Like, it surprised me.
Yes.
Like, you would have thought that at some point Nebraska would have lucked itself into 2 turnovers in back-to-back games, but I mean that's trending positively. I think if as long as health stays the same, I mean, I think you're probably feeling pretty good about this stretch of games, but I don't know. I mean, I also am not kind of willing to get ahead of myself a little bit because, again, it's hard to win. We've also seen how Nebraska has found new and exciting ways to lose games over the last decade. So I guess there's a little bit of the media trauma there too, where I'm not willing to go out on a limb and say that Nebraska is just going to roll through things.
Hey, Bruntz, coincidence by design, like everything else that comes out of that stadium, that, Coach Rule was very critical of, special teams and the wide receiver group. And, Aaron Murray is now the Bible, words according to Aaron Murray. But I say all that to say that McGuire took the podium yesterday and was pretty succinct, right? Get him back out there on the horse, face the music. What did you read into that, or is that just me?
With Garrett having to go,
yeah,
I think
it's his turn up in the rotation, right? Just convenient.
Yeah. I think it's his turn.
Yeah.
Well, you'd already had the coordinators, right? And I mean, I guess there might be a little more something to that, but
you're chomping at the bit to hear from EJ, aren't you? I mean, he's turned Dowdell into Terrell Davis.
Can I get a little Terrence Knight love in here? Can I get I mean,
yeah, Ravi all in on the Death Row CEO.
I love that guy.
Thank you.
Yeah, I could go with that. No, it's I don't know. I mean, I think from listening to players on Tuesday, I mean, I think Nebraska's coaching staff was not they were very much enforcing the 24-hour rule. Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
From talking to some of the defensive players, Tony White was not clapping everybody on the back and telling them how great they were during the film session. I think they're really kind of going out of their way to make sure that they stay focused on the fact that there's still a lot of improvement to do. I mean, the special teams piece of it, I mean, Matt Rule's not wrong. It wasn't great. And, I mean, those types of mistakes, the block punt, the missed field goal, the coverage errors, I mean, those are the things that beat you and allow a team like Rutgers or Purdue or somebody to win when they shouldn't or aren't expected to. So I wasn't really surprised with the tone from Matt Rule on Monday. I kind of expected it in some ways. It's kind of the old coaching thing where, you have a great game and, you act like you lost. I mean, that's kind of expected, I guess, in some ways. I would have been more surprised if he would have come out to, talk about how great they were.
I don't think that was doctored at all. I think he was pretty pissed. Right? I talked to him before the game, and he had a thing in his mind that he thought was going to happen, and it didn't happen. And I think he feels like they were in control of it. So I think he's genuinely mad.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's true though. I mean, it was pretty sloppy play, especially the special team stuff. I mean, went back and watched the game. I mean, the look on his face when the field goal went wide left.
Yeah, I was. It made me uncomfortable.
I mean,
it did. That's my guy. I was like,
it's like you came. The look was like the look you have when like a kid comes home after curfew and like parks the car in the middle of the wall.
Yeah, he wanted to say W. He truly looked like. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Didn't help that he's kind of letting his hair grow, so he takes the hat off, and it's like, oh boy, he's not happy.
I know that look.
Yeah.
I know that look.
Bruntz.
What do you mean the baby cub is supposed to look like a honey badger?
Do you know cheetahs actually?
What in the toilet?
You know cheetahs actually meow like cats. They don't growl like big cats.
Yeah, we've all seen Lion King.
No, it's a real thing.
R.I.P. James Earl Jones.
It's our guy, Mufasa.
Simba, I'm very disappointed in you.
Shout out. Bruntz,
what a segment.
I think it's been great. Bruntz, how did you process Rule's comments about the other players needing to get to Raiola's level in terms of intensity and preparation? Because I've heard some hand-wringing about, how are the older guys going to take it?
Wait, do that voice again.
That was a variation of my actually guy voice. That's my pearl clutcher voice. How are the older guys going to take it?
Wow. We're so not coming back tomorrow.
I would hope that they took it as a challenge. I mean, if Dylan has that kind of respect in the locker room, then you would hope the older guys are a little bit more up to speed. I mean, it's kind of a takeoff, I guess, of the winning football versus championship football thing. I mean,
I love that.
You can do things and you can still win games. But if you want to make that next step as a program, I mean, you have to do the small things right. And it's interesting that you kind of use a freshman quarterback to do that. But at the same time, they haven't really, going back to fall camp and stuff, I don't really ever recall them like going out of their way to like tamp down expectations or, kind of hide him from anything. So it kind of tracks with all that. But I mean, I would hope that, especially like, you meant it in the context of the offensive line in some ways. I mean, you've got 4 seniors who have kind of been through it. You would hope that they take it in a mature way. And it is a little bit striking too, when you're talking about a couple guys that have started 40 plus games that are in that group. So I guess you gotta pick it up a little bit.
All right, Bruntz, you have 30 seconds to him-haw. The line is now up 2 more points. It is 32.5 right now, which I think is incredibly low. The total is down to 47.5. What say you, Michael Bruntz, to meet your level of expectation on Saturday?
My score prediction, I'd have like 41-13. I think Nebraska just
13. What?
They got a good kicker.
Wow.
I don't know how they're going to get to 13.
Is he gonna kick him from 75, Bruntz? Like, where's he kicking him from? 13.
Yeah.
He's gonna hit one of those. He's gonna hit one of those 61 yarders like Dion was trying to get, or what?
That's wrong. It all comes back to Dion, Bruntsy.
Always. Dion and Trev. Got them both today.
Yep.
Bruntz, we appreciate the time as always. We'll talk to you later.
Sounds good, guys. Thanks.
More Hurrdat Sports Radio coming up next.
We will be back. 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 You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We're back here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, KFOR in Lincoln. That's DB. I'm Ravi, Lulla here at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill. It's time for Bet On It, brought to you by Warhorse Sportsbook, the best place in Nebraska to place your sports bets. Keep your money on the correct side of the river, either at the sportsbook in Lincoln or Omaha. You can bet on nearly every major sporting event in almost any way you can imagine. Warhorse Sportsbook's got you covered. You could bet on whether or not DB is going to be a martyr this segment. Oh, wait, no, you can't bet on that. But almost everything else, they got you covered.
That is wrong.
Warhorse
Well,
Sportsbook.
I smell bets.
No bets, no glory. I mean, you come out
This
here with
is
these,
not. I am being persecuted.
You doing Creed with arms wide open?
No, this is me and
with
Deanna.
arms wide open.
This is me and Deanna. We both were 21.
You still hanging?
Yeah, except I don't have all the commercials. You guys, listen, I'm dead serious. I feel some type of way about this.
What do you feel? How does that make you feel, DB?
Because I guarantee you there are other people out there that are like, I'm glad he asked about the crickets, because I know I'm not the only person that has ever tried to find the source of.
Nope, that's not where you lost me. You didn't lose me on trying to find the crickets. I'm with you on that.
Okay.
I've tried to find crickets because I'm like, oh, that's kind of annoying. Gonna go smash that cricket.
I hear them every morning in here, and I go out there.
That's not where you lost me.
Every break.
You lose me on, okay, I'm going to find crickets.
They're not smarter than me, so I'm trying to figure out, are they smarter than me? Can they really hear me?
Okay, those are two different things. Being able to hear is like a very basic biological function. To go from can they hear me to are they smarter than me is a whole other leap, and that leap is where you lost me. I'm not a long jumper. I don't know if you can tell. That leap is where you lost me.
I'm competitive, and I want to find the crickets, and I want to know how they're outthinking me.
They're not outthinking you. It's one of the most basic survival instincts is when you hear something.
How are they going to feel vibrations if I'm not even around the corner yet?
They can hear you.
No, they can't.
They have ears. We literally just looked this up. It's on the front of their legs.
God, I want to smack.
So,
shut up, Shane.
Let me get this right. You hear crickets every morning?
Every morning.
Yeah.
You know what I hear every morning?
What? You are my sunshine, my only sunshine.
Roxanne.
You got Ravi over here. Is that funny?
Yeah, it is pretty funny.
Is that funny?
Do you think the crickets could hear that?
God. Fudge.
You lose me on the leap from can they hear me to are they smart?
I melted down last September. We're not through this month yet.
You kind of like Green Day, like wake me up when September ends.
Yeah, whatever. I just want to find where crickets are sometimes. It's fine.
I get that. I do too.
No,
we're on the same page there.
No, we're not.
We're pulling in the same direction on team find the crickets.
I feel like I want to stab you in the eye with this pin.
So I got glasses on. Protect me.
Jeez. By the way, do you like our Hurrdat pens?
I do. Hurrdat Sports pens.
I'm kind of over the Denver thing because we play Denver. They play Denver this weekend. Is that your bet on it?
Segment? The Steelers? No.
You're such a hater.
No. What?
God.
I don't know what I'm going to get out of Justin Fields. This isn't a Steelers.
Does anyone?
That's my point.
Are you going out on a limb again?
No, but that's the point. Why would I ever bet on the Steelers when I have no idea what their quarterback's going to bring?
Because you're playing the line.
No, I'm not playing a line with that big of a variable.
Whatever. Just glad that I know that crickets have ears.
They do have ears. They can hear you.
And apparently they feel vibrations.
They can hear each other too because they're communicating with the chirps. They rub their legs together and they chirp.
But like southern vibrations?
Absolute freak booty.
I was thinking more like smooth vibrations.
Okay. Apparently I'm
Isn't that Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch?
Apparently I'm on an island.
Or is that sweet vibration?
By myself.
Oh, y'all ain't never had this before.
You can go on an island with that guy. I don't need to hear from him anymore.
That's fine.
He can cook you some food.
That's fine.
That stuff you sent me looked all right the other day.
Oh, that he made?
Yeah. Although I wasn't sure about
my. Now we got Stibbs chiming. Okay.
I wasn't sure about the quality of that lobster though. It didn't look quite right.
Yeah, it was probably a little overcooked.
Yeah. I was like, what are we doing here? I don't think a lobster's supposed to be white.
Here, so this is Stibbs.
Yeah. The famous Stibbs.
Yeah, that's exactly how we hear things. We have organs on or in our head that sense vibration and changes in atmospheric pressure, which sends a signal to our brain. What says Stibbs like that response?
Getting tossed like a stir fry.
Yeah, where's Coach 30?
Whoa.
I got some lines from him.
Whoa. Okay, here we go.
What?
Amazing Daniel. Flipping this whole thing on its head.
As per usual.
He said, maybe the crickets are looking for you and wonder why you stop every time you're right by them. Some cricket is all, do humans have eyes? Why can't they see me?
Did you read the Rev? He literally went into our conversation. DB, are they smarter than me? Ravi, crickets. Did you not say anything?
I kind of just looked at you like, what?
That's fine.
I still don't know how we got from can they hear?
Because no one else is honest enough to say, you know what? I've thought about that.
No, I haven't.
Yes, you have.
No.
You've never tried to find crickets.
Okay, see, again, we're talking about two different things here. You keep going back to that. I think you need to acknowledge it sometimes.
How come you never find them? I told you I'm in the solutions business. Why do you look for crickets and you can't ever find them?
Because they're so small. There's little guys.
You're an idiot.
They're hiding behind stuff that I can't get to.
It's fine.
There's lots of little nooks and crannies.
Go hang out with Bruntz.
I will, Miller North guy.
Guys are apparently boys.
Roll Stangs.
You.
Papio South this week.
Apparently C-Hap is on your team too. You guys can all beat it.
Like Michael Jackson?
Yep.
You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You sing a lot for a guy that's constantly being recorded. I feel like you forget that he does this.
I feel like you should get on with this segment.
What would you like to bet on, DB?
The fact that you may not make it another 20 minutes. That's what it's got a good chance of.
What do you like Miami minus 2.5 tonight? Bills, Miami.
Give me the Bills.
Just because they're better?
See.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I trust Josh Allen more than I trust Tua.
Yeah, I just, again, home team, all things being equal, less than the key number, not for me.
Stay away? Or you actually like the Bills on it?
No, I like the Bills.
Okay.
I mean,
because last week you were on Iowa State with basically the same spot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It didn't look good, did it?
No.
I looked at Greg. We were in the studio after he got there, and I was like, golly, man, 13-0? Shoot, that should do it. I'd have been on Iowa State. He's like, yeah, DB, it'd be hard.
Yeah.
Then by the time we got ready to settle in, it's like, wait, they're in a position to win? What happened in the second half? So anything can happen.
Cade McNamara happened in the second half.
Yeah, I wonder who he really is.
I think Iowa probably does too.
I just, you may have to be really specific with calling
with what you ask him to do.
Yep.
I mean,
because they can run the rock. The Deuce looks nice, doesn't he?
Yeah.
He looks like.
I think you have to do that with a lot of average college quarterbacks. Is you have to be really careful about what you ask them to do.
Well, you've been hating on quarterbacks since the show started this morning.
No, I love quarterbacks. I think they're great. Some of them. Other ones I think are very bad. Like Malik Willis, not good.
Weird. He's black.
So is Patrick Mahomes, man. Like, come on.
Kinda. And you only like him part of the time.
We're going to do this thing again. We're going to keep this thing rolling.
No, I love Patrick Mahomes. He's very, very good.
How do you love Patrick Mahomes and you're a Niners fan?
I love him as his ability to play quarterback. Like, I respect that he's incredible.
Right.
I love Andy Reid.
You guys that cheer for other teams.
I don't cheer for him.
You cheer for the Niners. Why do you have an affinity for anybody else?
Because I like people who are good at football. God. I love Andy Reid.
I'm going to find the crickets.
Love Andy Reid.
Yeah.
One of my favorite coaches in the league.
That's great.
I'm glad he finally got some Super Bowls. I'm not thrilled that they were against the 49ers.
Remember when that guy was really bad with clock management? Yeah, me too.
Yeah, you get a good quarterback. That helps a lot.
Yeah, I said that.
Oh, did you? In between Cricket Ranch, you make some good points every now and then.
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
I really like how while you're working on Saturday, you still have find time to text me about every game you were right about. That's my favorite.
I go, what I say the other day, I was like, man, I need to just take my own advice. Maybe I could start traveling more.
Then you were like, oh, I got that one. Oh, right about them too. And I was like, I know, DB. I know. I was there.
No, I was on Illinois too.
I was on Illinois. You were hating on me because I was on Illinois.
I wasn't hating. I didn't think you'd go against your boy.
Oh, against Evan?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would never. That's my guy. Until they come next Friday.
We only got through one game, except for the fact I bet on the fact I don't like you. That's a surefire winner.
Oh yeah, that's a lot of negative money on that one. We know that for sure. I do know your garage code though, so you better like me a little bit.
Good point.
Better be a little nice. That's TV.
Damn it.
I'm Ravi.
Hey, see if you can find the crickets.
I will, but I'll never wonder, are they smarter than me? We'll be back to talk a little UNI football to close up the show on Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Incredible.
We will be back. We will be back. will be back. We will be back. Welcome to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Edwards starts right, comes back left, slips a tackle. He's got room to the 20. Down the sideline, 30. Foot race to the 40. Midfield, down the sideline, 40, and forced out of bounds deep in Tommy territory. Then Jouette caught up with him at the 34. Football. Lost the football, picks it up, spins away, gets to the 10-5, and gets into the end zone. Touchdown. Are you kidding?
Wrapping up the show here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, KFOR in Lincoln. That's DB. I'm Ravi, Lulla. We're here with J.W. Cox. He's a broadcaster for Northern Iowa Athletics. JW, how you doing this morning?
I'm doing great, guys. How are you?
Good morning. So this is interesting. How'd we get to the point where it's Ty and Amari and they're running the ball so effectively? Like when in the preseason, the talk was like, gosh, strength is in the numbers outside. They've got really good receivers. Can they settle in on a quarterback? Is it simply that the quarterback question hasn't been answered, or was the design to go a little more ground and pound to begin with?
It's a multifaceted answer. I think the first part, the quarterback is still a work in progress. Anytime you have a first-year starter, you're not sure what the learning curve is going to be. There are definitely skill players on the outside. Aiden Dunn is definitely a kid who can get it done when he gets more experience under his belt. But the biggest thing goes all the way back to the offseason when the talk of being an air raid team and being able to throw the ball to all those skilled position players on the outside came with a new offensive coordinator by the name of Luke Falk, who played for Mike Leach, and he was a quarterback, went to the NFL, did all of that, and you thought, all right, he's going to install this. Well, things happened in his world, and he wasn't able to stay. And so then all of a sudden after the spring game, you have this huge upheaval on the coaching staff. And when you have that kind of uncertainty that isn't sorted out until you get into fall camp, nobody's going to really have a huge appetite to continue to try to overhaul things, right? So you're going to go back to what you know and what your strength is. And it turns out we do have strength on the offensive line. It is 4 out of 5 starters coming back from last year. And those 2 running backs that you mentioned are big, powerful backs that can get it done. And so as this offense is a work in progress to maybe down the line be a team that can throw the ball and beat you through the air too, they're going to go back to what they have and they know they have and what Coach Farley's teams have been in the past. And that is beating you with 12 personnel, a couple of tight ends, and running the football if they can do it. So it's been fun to see the success of the run game, and it will be fun to watch the maturation and evolvement, that's not a word, the evolving of this offense throughout the season as we roll through.
JW, I'm just glad you unknowingly have my back. I've been making up words all morning and been getting killed on social media, so we're okay. So I'm super familiar with Amari Pesek-Henson from Omaha, coached against him in high school, follow him to Kansas, know the family real well. I get Ty, but did you guys know what you had in Amari when he got to campus?
That's such a fun story because, like you said, when he got to campus, he was still a running back. And his whole first year, which was my first year, he was the third string back, and we didn't get to see him run the ball a lot. He was behind a couple of experienced guys. And then the next year it was, well, he still might not get his chance, but he's a big-time athlete, so let's try him at linebacker. Yep. And he was basically the fourth out of three linebackers and was going to be next man up if needed last year. Well, injuries happened to Ty Edwards, Harrison Bowie. We basically were left with no running backs on the roster that were healthy, and it was, well, here's Amari. And it was literally the week of a game where they put him back on the running back side and said, all right, we're going to give you the ball. And they turned out to give him the ball back-to-back games 30 times, and he rushes for 100 yards. And so I think the biggest answer to that question is they did know what a freakish athlete and how much of an impact he could make on a football game no matter where you put it, because they had the trust to move him to linebacker at one point, and then they had the trust to move him back. And it's just so fun to get him to see him get his opportunity throughout a full year going into this year, knowing what his role was going to be, because it really is a 1-2 punch. Every 3 downs or so, those two guys are going to switch, and the results have been there for both. And I'm very excited for what Amari can do, knowing his role, settling into being a running back again, and being a huge part of what this team wants to do.
We're talking Northern Iowa football with J.W. Cox. J.W., you talked about that trust that they've got in the running backs. What level of trust do you think they have through 2 games with Aiden Dunn at the quarterback spot? 2 kind of very different performances out of him in the first 2 games. Where do you think that is right now?
I think it's very high when it comes to managing what they give him on offense on a given day, on a given game, on a given play. What needs to happen now is you have to be able to make that a bigger plate of options for Aiden Dunn, and he has to be able to distribute the ball through the air. He has to be able to make the right reads and checks, because while he's getting high marks for leading the offense, being a vocal leader, getting everybody in the right spot, and there haven't been a lot of mistakes when it comes to play clock, time mismanagement, penalties pre-snap. Everything has been pretty crisp through the first 2 weeks, especially starting with a new quarterback and having a bunch of new coordinators and coaches. It's been pretty crisp, but it's that next step. He has made maybe some reads that are bad decisions and potentially against teams down the road that we face would turn into even worse outcomes, be it an interception, maybe a pick six, something like that. So he's made some of those decisions that he would want back. And so now the biggest thing to increase his trust factor is to be able to make those types of throws, those types of reads, and those types of plays as the quarterback. And I think everybody's confident that he deserves the opportunity to roll into that, but it's got to start happening for him, because it was a quarterback battle all the way down to the last couple of weeks of camp. And there are 2 other guys that were right there neck and neck with him at times. And so if it does not happen that way, there could potentially be changes, but that's not to say that there's not full faith and trust right now in that this is Aiden Dunn's team, Aiden Dunn's offense, and he just has to make steps and strides week by week.
Anytime you get to be in the same sentence as Kenny Shedd and guys like Dietrich Ward, you're probably in good company. But with the percentage of touchdowns, the catches that Desmond Hudson has, if you're going to go with all he does is catch touchdowns, how does he become more involved to increase that percentage? Because you're going to have some balance coming into Saturday night.
Yeah, and I think that's got to be a big key. And you're right about this game in particular, and starting this week and moving on to the rest of the schedule that we have, it'll have to be more balanced. And I think it's just being more accurate and making those better reads at the line of scrimmage. I think receivers have been open, and maybe as a new starting quarterback would do, you kind of get stuck on the one thing that you think you're going to go in and do. And sometimes games dictate that, but sometimes they don't. And you need to be able to make that right read to get those skill position players involved, because it is. Desmond Hudson is a guy that for my money you could target all the time, constantly. Mm-hmm. He's such a big body. We used him last year in a little bit of a hybrid tight end role. He would play close to the formation, and that became a matchup issue for linebackers, that he was faster than. You get him out on the edge, and he's bigger than the corners. And so he is. He's just a nightmare. And you have to be able to distribute the ball to him, Sergio Morency, the deep threat on the outside, Jaden Ellis-Leahy, another deep threat. And Dez's role on this team just underscores how good everything is on the outside and how good of a group of wide receivers it is, because you're right. You could get it to him all the time, and he does catch a lot of touchdowns, and he's a great big body target, but he's not the only one. And so when all is said and done, even if this offense finds success through the air, that doesn't mean that each of these guys is going to be piling up a bunch of catches, but on the whole, they're going to be successful. So it's a whole maturation process for this offense, and I think everybody knew going in that it was going to take a little while to really get up and running with everything that they want to be on offense, which is why it's been so good to have that good running attack that you can lean on. And that really did win us this game last Saturday, late in the fourth quarter, able to run the football, and so that's always a good piece to fall back on.
Let's switch over to the other side of the ball on the defensive side. Obviously, Nebraska's shown some ability to be explosive in both the running and passing game. Do you have an idea of how Northern Iowa is going to try and counteract Nebraska's offense?
You have to win it at the line of scrimmage and make plays into the backfield. And obviously that's going to be easier said than done with the line that they're going up against. But the way this team is structured through the first two games, it's to get a defensive line that may not be the biggest, but is going to try to be the quickest and savviest to be able to make a quarterback uncomfortable. And they've been able to do that, piling up sacks. They've got the most sacks through two games that they've had since 2019. So it's delivering some results in the first 2 weeks. The challenge gets a lot higher with the level of competition that they will face on Saturday. But I think when Coach Farley's teams have been successful over the years, and there have been a lot of successful teams over the years here, they've been able to pressure the quarterback. They've been able to force the offense's hand early because of that pressure, and that just makes everything else uncomfortable. Gets everybody off schedule. And so I think the back end of the defense, the linebackers, they can be solid. There's a work in progress there, and there's a lot of excitement about what they can do to make some game-changing plays. But for this year's defense, it's all going to start with those four guys up front and how they can pressure the quarterback, get tackles for loss, create negative yardage plays. And I think that's got to be a way forward. They have to find a way in this game if they're going to have any chance of success. They have to be able to do that early and often.
Coach Farley's been here enough to recruit, so I get a good feel for his program. You've had guys like Gans and on that staff before. Toughness has never really been a thing, nor has the moment been too big. It's kind of been a program that will play and take on anybody. How much of what happened last week is or is not a factor when you think this team may be walking into on the road come Saturday night?
Well, I think last week, you can look at that a couple of different ways, and last week is kind of a benefit. That game should not have been as close as 17-10 when it comes to what the Panthers did at St. Thomas, and that's just, it's a rising program in St. Thomas, moving from the Division III level to the Division I level, and they've got their own challenges they're dealing with, and they played a heck of a game to keep it as close as they did. But the Panther focus just, and you could ask anybody, it wasn't at the level that it needed to be for that trip. But the reason I say it's a positive is because you got that trip out of the way, and you got a win out of it. The Panthers, because of the way their schedule generally breaks down in a season, they don't start 2-0 very often because there's usually the FBS game sometime in the first 2 weeks, if not right out of the gate. This year has been such a benefit to be able to play these two games that were winnable games, one of them at home, one of them on the road. You get two good results, plus you do all the learning that you do in the first 2 weeks of a season about who you are as a team, what you need to do better, and part of what they need to do better is that mental focus. Now, it's going to be a lot easier for a lot of these guys, some of them from Western Iowa, some of them from Eastern Nebraska, to be able to get up for this game. There's no doubt about it. To get up to play in front of 90,000 at Memorial Stadium is a lot different than to get up to play in front of 3,500 people at O'Shaughnessy Stadium in St. Paul. So that's not going to be an issue there. But part of their lessons about preparation, focus and attention to detail pregame, before the night before, all of that were lessons that hopefully they can take from yesterday or from last week to say, hey, we didn't maybe rise to the level that we needed to before the game. We still got to win. The rest of the way, we're going to have to be at that level that our coaches expect, that our fans expect, and that we should expect of ourselves as players to go out there and get the best possible result.
That's J.W. Cox, broadcaster for UNI. J.W., we appreciate the time, and I'm sure we'll catch up again soon.
Sounds good. Thanks, guys.
That's Hurrdat Sports Radio for today. We'll be back tomorrow to wrap up the week.
See you. Have a good day. Love you.